All right. Hopefully, I got this straightened out. I had a little audio issue earlier on her end and a little visual issue on my end. Now I think we've got it worked out. Hi, Chesh.
So we had a couple of bugs today from I think everybody's end. As you can see, I've moved locations again because do I ever have anything consistent going on? Nope, not even once, except for the goblin.
So
The goblin
the way I
right
should infer
there.
that is that you get around.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
I'm also. Did you make me like super duper narrow or something?
No, I think your aspect ratio is right.
Oh, okay. And then we've also got Puck right here.
You're just really
Puck.
skinny.
Oh, thanks. Puck's right here, whooping around. He'll probably lay down either there or there or there or right there. There's another couch, so he might show up right there sometimes. We'll
You know,
see. I'm at my new setup, my living room.
I just noticed I have old text in here. I got to get rid of. I got to change the title of the hangout here. Boy, I'm telling you, we're batting 1,000 a day.
This is one of those days. I think that's okay
Get
though.
rid of that. I don't even know where I
My
have
volume
this at.
okay?
Yeah, let's
Is
ask the
my
outside chat. Make sure everybody can hear us properly. I do have the chat here. Very quiet. I have everybody boosted up. I mean, I got literally everybody
I can
maxed.
turn myself up a little bit if
So it's on your end.
I have turned myself up. Hopefully that is better. Um, I want to get like I've got a fireplace behind me, but it's not a functional fireplace. Like it's all filled in. There's nothing that actually functions in there. And so I want to get an insert that's actually a heater and not just like a fake fireplace. I want to get an insert that's like actually going to produce some heat. But yay!
All right. I think I got it figured out. All right. So why don't you kind of tell people about your video that you had the other day with Gary? That fun. I gotta admit, I was actually surprised he showed up. Although I said he would. I did tell you that he would show up, right?
Yeah, I kind of figured he would show up. I thought I didn't have any real reason to expect that he wouldn't. He did show up on Reds' channel last year, so I didn't want to assume that he wouldn't show up. So, and he did.
He did. Now, does he regret that? I wonder. I don't know because for 6 hours you kind of slammed him left and right. I mean, you pointed out every one of his bad arguments, everything, one of his bad narratives. You showed the flaws in his reasoning. Now, granted, he wasn't understanding any of this, and I've told you this about him before. He talks the way he writes, unintelligible. And I just don't think that he was understanding the points you were trying to make, even though I personally thought you were crystal clear in them. I don't think you've got anything different. Uh,
I,
but
hmm,
but anyway, so on your channel, the link is in the video description, so please watch it. It is 6 hours. I don't recommend spending 6 hours at one shot, but parse it out or take the highlights or do what you got to do. But it is worth definitely watching parts of it for sure.
I wonder if it would be realistic for me to go through it and get highlights and then just make a highlight reel of it. But I don't know if I can go through that again.
Yeah, well, at 6 hours of it too, there's a lot of content in there. Although he repeated himself frequently, but you had asked me to look at the comments, and I did, and man, these comments were golden. Absolutely golden. We do have a super chat. Josiah Hansen, $5. Just spent the afternoon with Team Skeptic at the Dallas Natural History Museum. Ooh, I'm jelly. Was awesome. Y'all should
Yeah.
come next time. Yeah, if you get to Texas, absolutely. Jules V is in Texas, so if we get out there, we might hang out with her and kind of compare our forms after we've been kind of working on our diets for
Maybe
a while.
she had a strut.
Yeah. But thank you for the super chat. We appreciate that. Because this has been a rough month for me. I had a lot of expenditures I didn't expect, but it's okay. Going into a new year, 2021, head held high. Um, they say your volume is better, still lower than mine. I could put a gain on yours, I guess.
Don't worry about it. I have ones on my end that hopefully that should be about right now.
Yeah, or I can turn my mic down a little bit. I'll turn my 5
Well, I
dB
already
down.
wait, don't change yours yet. I
Okay.
just changed mine.
Okay.
Wait until
Okay.
give it a minute.
Awesome. All right. So.
Otherwise, we're gonna end up all completely the other way.
Yeah, we'll let them tell us here. Yeah, I wish I had a way to audio monitor it, like on a separate system at the same time, but that'd be kind of confusing.
Yoda, like you mean with like a virtual?
Yeah, or like just listen to like an earpiece the audio levels from complete like how's the as a person watching the YouTube video, right? Because I'm not
Yeah.
listening to that, so
Yeah, it'd be nice if we could like pre-do that before the show started, but
exactly. I'm
we're
sure
not
if we,
that good.
well, I'm sure if we used vmix or we used voice banana like we should, then
Okay. There. I think I'm maxed myself
all right,
out at this point.
I'm gonna
So
turn
you
myself down a little bit. I'm gonna turn.
wait. Give it 1 more minute, and then we'll turn Steve down.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna kick myself down 5 dB, so it should be equal right now.
I mean, I can also move my mic closer. That's an option.
If you can, I still turn down my face. I'm right in the yellow anyway, so 5 dB should be fine. But anyways, as they're figuring that out,
There we go. That's as close as I can get it.
okay, so we should be equalized here, give or take.
Hopefully. I mean, I could do that a little bit and turn that up.
Good enough, they say. Awesome. So,
Okay.
in this particular video, you want to give a brief synopsis? It's your video, if you can.
Sure. Yeah, I have to think about that for
Brief.
a second. So if a TLDR would essentially be that Gary was having a hard time having people understand him. And he was, I think, lashing out a little bit because he thought people were making fun of him when they were legitimately saying, I don't understand you. And then they started making fun of him. Oh, I'm wait. Okay, no, they're kidding. You got me.
Don't
You
scare
got
her
me.
like that. That's just that's her actual voice. That's not loud. That's just how she talks.
So
She projects.
I was hoping to, because I honestly thought that there was just some serious miscommunication happening, like that he was just having a really hard time having people understand him, because I think I knew what he was trying to say, but I still wasn't 100% sure because it's Twitter. So I invited him to come on and try and actually have this conversation. And during that conversation, he had even said that he thought that he was going to come in and he was going Smitty. He was going to come in and I was just going to make fun of him the whole time, which was never my intention, not my intention in any way, shape, or form. And he agreed with that and said that, hey, maybe I came into this a little bit hostile, expecting this, and that's not what happened. And you know what? I appreciate that he acknowledged that. Like, I didn't sit there and berate him. I didn't sit there and just make fun of him the whole time. I made fun of him a little bit, but in the same way, like I make fun of Steve, right? Like, there are some things that somebody says something, you just kind of have to laugh at it a little bit because it's like that's kind of silly. But I think what we came down to is I don't think he's a bad person. I just think that he is either very confused or he's being taken advantage of at best.
No, and I actually have to agree with you on that. I don't think Gary's a bad person either. I'm pretty objective. I think, even though I have issues with all of these people, I think what he says is pretty poor, and I think he doesn't understand the fact he's being manipulated and used as a weapon. Although, because I've never done anything against this guy, I've known him for 5 years. Never had an ill will against him. He said something about I nominated him for
some other issue that
I have no idea what he's talking about.
I didn't want to delve into that too much because I was just trying to focus on.
Well, he said I nominated him for Dev Fuck of the Year or something, and I don't. If I did, it was in passing because, of course, he's not even in the realm of the category people that we have for that particular award. But I mean, yeah, I think if that's the only issue, then I think it's kind of meaningless.
That seems like a silly thing to now I hate you forever and I'm going to comment on all of your stuff. Like, that seems really, really petty.
Right.
So I don't know if that's what he was referring to, but that just seems silly to me.
Well, like I said, I don't know what half these people's problems are. I mean, I've never seen a group of people spend their entire lives dedicated to one person who they've never really had any much interactions with. I didn't really deal with Gary that much, so how he's so emotionally vested in my downfall is beyond me.
Well,
actually, I
it
think I do
seemed to
know.
me that he was more invested in defending Nate, who he also admitted he doesn't really know very well and has only had a couple of interactions with. So it's like, so why are you so hard up to make sure his personal life and his career is okay when you know Sweet Heathen about the same amount, but you don't give a flying fuck about
Yeah,
her
he doesn't know
personal
Nate
life
at
or
all.
her.
He never dealt with Nate. I
Well,
think he's just.
that's the thing that I didn't understand.
Yeah, no, I think he's just he wants to be liked by women. I think he's very very as I guess Jesse Lee Peters would say beta, and so he'll take like instructions from strong-minded women. To me, I just call him Fiona's an exile's lapdog. That's all he is. He does. I don't think he gives a damn about any of this really. He's just point him in the direction and let him loose kind of thing. Although he's not very good at this stuff, and so it kind of backfires on them because, as this video pointed out, none of his arguments made sense. He couldn't really have a cogent argument, and I'm sure that they give him flack for it. But maybe he'll listen to you. Maybe he'll go, hey, maybe Cheshire made sense, and he'll just stop being, such a horrible person that he's been lately on Twitter.
Yeah, I think his issue is that he's so focused on the potential harm of this one thing that he's not noticing. Like he's so tunnel visioned on this one potential harm that could happen that he's completely blind to any harm that he may or may not be causing by defending this potential problem. That, and then because he's concerned of this potential problem, he's also misdirecting the where this problem is coming from or who is responsible for this problem. Because at the end of the day, this analogy that he had come up with, or this example that he'd come up with, where Nate's career could be an issue because somebody said they didn't like him, would be a matter of, one, he's using a pseudonym, right? So if they happen to see Sweet Heathen's thread, then they would then have to be like, okay, well, who is this Nate Broady guy? Then go check out Nate Broady and see what he's saying, and then make the connection that this is the person that is being represented and this is the behavior that's now attached to that person. So it's still, at the end of the day, is Nate's behavior and Nate's responsibility that is coming, that is causing the problem.
All right, well, let me ask you.
At the end of the day,
as you said, Nate uses a pseudonym.
In his analogy, at least.
However, we know who he is. I mean, I don't think he practices any longer, to my understanding. I don't think he's with us for.
No idea.
Yeah, I don't think he does. But he is a real lawyer. But I don't think that he's actually active. Maybe I'm wrong. If somebody knows, that's fine. I don't care one way or another. But to my understanding, I think he's no longer with the ADA. But if do you think that Nate keeps his YouTube and his real lawyer stuff separate? Because I don't think he can get away with what he does if he used his real name, because he has objectively lied. There's no question about it. He has actively tried to smear me, actively tried to smear Sweet Heathen. He's lied about both of us. This is not even up for argument. I mean, you could demonstrate the statements that he made about us.
I gave
were wrong.
Gary a perfect example during that, and he just refused to accept that.
Yeah, I mean, Nate actually outright said, "Oh well, Steve knows Ben is lying. Steve admits this." None of that actually happened, right? I've never once doubted Ben's honesty. He came in and he was loyal and honest from day one. He never tried to stab me in the back, never tried to screw me over, never tried to lie to me. I take that to heart, right? That to me is a decent person. Why would I go around saying that I don't believe Ben, or that I mean, it made no sense for him to run that kind of narrative, which is an outright lie. So, I mean, how does Gary reconcile those things if he's trying to like worry about Nate's?
I don't think he currently can right now, particularly with Gary. Gary seems to be the ride or die kind of person. So if he doesn't, and more of like I think, and this is just my assessment, so I could be wrong. This is the first conversation I've had with the guy, so take that with a grain of salt. I don't necessarily know him very well, but my impression is that he seems to be under the impression, or seems to be under this situation where he thinks that if he talks or disagrees with any of these people, he's betraying them, or that it's not okay.
Yeah, he was very hesitant to admit that, hey, if he applies it this way, he has to apply it to them as well.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it wasn't even that. He applied it to them, and then when he found out it was them,
Yeah, then he backtracked.
then he backtracked,
Right.
and so it was like, and then he accused me of calling people things that he called them.
Yeah. I
My
mean,
excitement about that racism bit was the excitement of the consistency. Like he was being consistent. And I was like, thank you that you're being consistent. Perfect. Now let me tell you who it was. And now you're not being consistent. And now you're
correct.
telling me I'm the one who said it. I didn't, that wasn't me.
Yeah. Oh, when you started talking about like the N word and stuff like that, he was just lost. He made some really odd comments, and I was like, Gary, you really need to think about these things because his arguments are so poor. Because you made brilliant points, and I'm thinking, okay, Gary, listen to what Cheshire's saying here because she's actually showing you that your argument has flaws in it, and he just repeated this mantra over and over again rather than have to address what you were pointing out, the problems in his arguments, which were very clear.
I think there was a bit of an issue when it came to the apologetics thing. And I think it was that he thought I was saying, like, it was my opinion that Nate is a rape apologist by these standards. And I'm like, I don't think either of them are engaged in rape apologetics. Nate not believing
I don't think so either.
Or me does not constitute rape apologetics. So I think he might have thought that I was calling Nate a rape apologist, but I don't think he is.
No, but
I don't know. But what I was doing was saying that, so if Nate outright says he doesn't believe people and Steve implies that he doesn't believe someone by your interpretation, which, by the way, we had a conversation about perception and interpretation not necessarily being what the person is saying, which he agreed with, is that why is this one not if this one is, when this one is explicit and this one is implicit?
Yeah, and the only reason Nate doesn't believe Sweet or believe you is because you associate with me. You know, that's the only reason. And what do you say about Sweet, that because she was white or something that he didn't believe her?
He was saying that it was either Sweet or I, because it could be up to interpretation about which one of us he was talking about. But he said that
I get you kind of confused too, so I can. Yeah, I can get
because we were too white. Yeah.
Even though she's black, half black.
Even though she's though she's mocha. So yeah. So but that's like what? And so like, why is this okay? I'm also curious because he talked about being really good friends with Exiled for a really long period of time, but like you've got these people like Exiled and Spackle both coming towards me and Sweet as victims, saying that we're not real women.
Yeah. Why not? She called you. She said you're a gender traitor.
I'm a gender traitor, whatever the hell that means. So I would love to know how Gary gets around that one.
He doesn't. No, he wasn't. He won't address those things, though.
No,
I mean,
he
does say, "Well, I will ask them about it, and if they did this, then yes, I will." He always says, "Yes, I will confront them." He won't. I don't think that he actually will. But yeah, I mean,
I don't think I asked him to confront them, did I? I think I asked if he was going to apologize towards like Karma or Sweet for some of the things that he had said in the past.
Well, no,
he apologized to Karma.
Yeah,
he apologized to Karma.
Yeah,
but I don't expect him to stand up to Exiled. I don't expect him to hold these people accountable in that way because I don't think he's able to do so. And not because like I think he's a bad person, I just don't think he's in a position where just listening to him, we try and weave around me and weave around the like more the point that was being made when it's a very, very clear, like I don't think I said or brought up anything that was like terribly complicated. Like I don't think I brought up anything that was terribly not pretty easy to answer, at least.
For kind of people that want it too long don't read, it's kind of complicated. But one of the things that really kind of facilitate a lot of this was Sweet's comment that she felt more she would, as a victim of rape, multiple, would feel more comfortable in a room with a convicted rapist than Nate Broady. And Nate took that as, oh, Stephen and Sweet are saying that I'm worse than a convicted rapist, which is not what was said. That was an outright distortion. That was a manipulation tactic that Nate uses.
Actually, if you want the double, I'll double down on that on my own. Earl David Wharton has treated me personally better directly better than all of them.
Well, yeah, I mean, I got along with the guy better than I do Nate, clearly. I mean,
Well, it's not about getting along.
But he's never insulted you. He's never insulted
Sweet. He was
Sweet.
respectful towards me.
Yeah.
He was nice to me. He was funny, and he wasn't a dick. Whereas these people are actively going out of their way to cause me harm as much as possible.
Right, and that's kind of the thing. And of course, he's going to take that as, oh, again, Chester's saying that I'm worse than a convicted rapist. That's not what she's saying. But
I am.
Well,
I'm saying
to you,
no,
towards you.
I am saying what I'm saying.
He's worse towards you.
Yeah. Your behavior towards me and the people around me is worse than this person's behavior towards me, around me, and the people around me. So yes, by that standard and in that context, you are worse than that person.
Yeah, I agree with
You're
that.
welcome.
Yeah,
Good job. I hope you're proud of yourselves.
I totally agree with that. But to kind of go further on it, Sweet as a victim, you as a victim has a right to say who you're more comfortable with or not around, or to be around. She has personal history with Nate. I have personal history with Nate. I've known Nate 5 years. We go way back. He was dishonest back then 5 years ago. He has not changed. He's just gotten a little more popular, but his dishonesty levels are off the chart. People call him Clapton Clippy for a reason. He takes things and manipulates them and takes things out of context, and he runs it for narrative reviews. He's told me he does these things. He told me many times that he'll use clickbait to get views. When he first started, he had no ability to get content because he was just wrong on a lot of things. And I would point it out, and he would get frustrated with me because I'm like, hey, Steve, your logic's wrong. I'm like, well, no, it's not. And he did the same thing that Unirock wanted to do, right? Hey, Steve, your logic's wrong. Show me, go back and forth to make content kind of thing. Now, I wasn't explicit like that, not as Unirock was, so I'm not going to put words in his mouth. But that seems to be, looking back historically, what was his intent, because his logic is completely bogus. But don't you think as a victim, Sweet has a right to tell people what would be more triggering her to her? Somebody she has personal issues with, who has lied about her, who has tried to slander her and tried to slander the people she cares about, or somebody who may be a convicted rapist but treated her better than the person that was trying to slander. How is that not something that makes sense to people, for a victim to say, look, I just feel as a victim more comfortable with this person who has treated me better personally than this person who I know personally, other than the other person who they don't really know very well, right? She doesn't know this guy.
It's a manipulation tactic. It's an emotionally charged manipulation tactic. So if I make the comment that I did, and I will stand by that and I'll double down on it, and somebody doesn't know that the context of what we're talking about, because I can demonstrate how these people have treated me worse, and they're going to continue to treat me worse, right? This isn't something that I have to oh, well, let's see what they do. No, they're gonna keep doing it. There's no surprise here. But there's a context there. But if you remove that context and only say this person said this person was worse than this, without any of the context of well, one, I don't know this person, and this person I know, and they've treated me horribly, and two, this person has served their time and has said that they're innocent the whole time, and maybe I have had a conversation with the person and they've been completely amicable, whereas anytime I even have, I can't go to other streams without being harassed by these people. They try to harass me everywhere. Why would I ever want to be in a room with someone who actively goes out of my out of their way 24/7 to try to harass me?
Right.
Yes, your behavior is worse. It's
totally
an
agree.
Emotional tactic to say that, oh, this person is worse than somebody who's raped somebody.
Yeah, well, that's what I found out. He was trying. He was trying to.
It's inflammatory.
But he was trying to emotionally manipulate Emily, the lawyer too. Emily, when they had a little thing. I didn't watch it. I'm told of this, so this is secondhand. I didn't watch it, so bear with me here. And I don't like to talk about things I did not watch firsthand. From what I understand, though, he tried to use that as emotional manipulation to say that that we were saying he was worse than a convicted felon, and I'm like, that's not what the point of the conversation was, as far as what Sweet was trying to say, that she's more comfortable with this convicted felon who she has no personal relationship with than somebody who she does.
It's such a subjective thing. It's such a subjective thing. If any of these people said they would rather be in a room with Warden than me, I would not take that poorly. Good. I don't want to be around you either. So I don't have a problem with you making this comparison. Why? Because you're not comparing me to that
So
person
who would you
in the
rather?
I'm not you're not implying or saying that I have necessarily done anything to anybody else. You're just saying, well, I actually just prefer this person over this person because of my own subjective reasons. Because I don't like that person in particular and I don't have that much of opinion on that one.
All right, so would you rather be in a room with me or Nate Broady?
Oh God.
See?
I'm here, aren't I?
Yeah, so I mean, so obviously Nate Broady towards you is somebody that you don't want to have anything to do with. So it's not that far of a reach of a statement for Sweet to say, look, I'd rather be in a room with this person who I have no personal relationship with all. I mean, it's just some stranger, but has treated me better than Nate, who has treated her very poorly. I understand that. I don't even know why that anybody would fall for that kind of emotional manipulation. I don't think Emily did, from what I understand. But still, I mean, that's Nate's narrative. Oh well, they're making me out to be a bit worse than a convicted racist. No,
We're not making you out to be that way. You're making yourself out to be that way.
You're just treating people worse than a convicted rapist has. That is subjective, but that's the way I look at it. He has treated people worse. He's treated Sweet worse, you worse, me. He's lied about all of us. He lied about the non sequitur showcase multiple times.
Yep.
That's something that people can go look at and find out.
As people who have been attacked or treated poorly or harmed by this person, or at least they're trying to harm us, an ongoing
it's apparent to people now, though.
Like it's his job to try and harm us.
But
and so that there's like this, as if we shouldn't say anything because it might hurt him, though.
Yeah, right? That was Gary's defense.
He's so fragile.
Yeah, that was Gary's defense. Nate harassing us, even though we've told him we want nothing to do with him, but he keeps bringing up Sweet. He keeps talking about Sweet, keeps talking about us, and yet we're harassing him when we keep on telling him, we want nothing to do with you. You are a dishonest, very dishonest, unethical person.
That was one of the things.
I don't want to be around those kind of people.
It was... One, I had to correct Gary multiple times, and I still don't think he got it, that Sweet did not say what Nate was saying she said.
Correct.
It just didn't happen.
Right.
And then he also seemed to struggle with that it's not Sweet's... like Nate's well-being is not Sweet's responsibility. She hasn't made any videos about him.
Nope.
Not one.
Not one.
She showed up on one of your channels and talked about him when he came up. She made a Twitter thread explaining that situation because he keeps bringing it up and lied about what she said. And how many videos is it that this guy has made a video about this person that he's harassing, who doesn't have her own channel, who doesn't put herself out there like that, who doesn't have a following to defend herself with in any way. She doesn't have that kind of a platform or access, especially comparatively. So you've got this guy that has 40K subscribers now, telling a bunch of people that this person said something she did not say. That's going to embolden or encourage these people to go after her further, simply for saying that this dude has been a jerk to her and she doesn't want to be around him.
Yeah, exactly. And matter of fact,
in response to him talking about her with her, what? How many followers does she have on Twitter? 1,000 maybe?
Yeah, not a hell of a lot, but come
on, dude.
Don't you think though? I mean, it's kind of obvious that Nate knows he can't get to me because I don't have.
Nate also knows he can't go after anybody larger and doesn't care to because he knows he's not going to win because he's bad at it.
But doesn't it just seem very obvious to most people now, as we've been pointing out, that he went after Sweet merely because, Sweet's a friend of mine, that people know that I care about Sweet very, very, very much. And that to me is a sign of a very sick mind. The fact that he couldn't... that I care about her very much, that's my own fault. I don't blame Sweet for that. Blame her. Why does she have to be so cool? I don't know. I mean, the fact that he couldn't go after me.
He has 6 subs. Yes, let's this guy with 40K is going to go after this channel that has 6 subs. Nice. Looks good, Nate.
Oh, man. Godless Scummer for 5 pounds. Godless Scummer 5 pounds. I've been told today that apparently I waste money naming Chess's pet in Super Chats. My response is get effed, Keon.
Okay, so there's something you should probably know about.
Are you going to have Keon on, by the way?
Keon's not going to come on and talk to me.
It's hilarious.
I mean,
Thank
why
you,
would he
Godless.
It doesn't really make sense. I don't think it's beneficial for him to come on and talk to me. But something that you guys should know about Puck. So Puck is turning 9 this year coming up. You can see his little boopy nose right there, the little boop. Puck, I've had Puck since he was about 3 months old, meaning I've had Puck longer than I've known Steve, meaning that I've also had Puck longer than I've known Godless Scummer, meaning I've had Puck a long time before anybody could have possibly super chatted ever towards me.
Wait, so Keon was claiming that Godless Scummer named your dog?
Via super chats.
Oh, it hurts. I don't understand
Unless
these people.
you think this white-faced dog, I'm somehow lying about how old he is.
Maybe Godless Scummer actually named me when I was born, gave my mom and dad the idea to name me Steve. I mean, hey, look, I was going to say, if Kyle can have time travel, why not Godless Scummer?
I was dating, I did not pick out Puck, by the way. The guy I was dating at the time, who I got Puck with, picked him out, and we named him together, meaning that I guess Godless Scummer is my ex.
Hey, you could do worse.
Yeah, maybe if he was, he wouldn't be an ex.
Yeah, Godless Scummer's got it going on. You see that flowing hair he has?
Oh, okay. So no, Godless Scummer means that Keon, that it was Godless Scummer who called Keon.
Oh, Keon is Chesh's pet. Oh, okay.
That actually came, if I'm not mistaken, that actually came from Red's rhetoric, and that was like a parallel joke to his Red's had this pet dog who kept peeing on the couch, so he wasn't allowed inside. And so, as a parallel to that person and that joke with Reds, I got Keon because I'm not allowed to have nice things.
Yeah, well, whatever you do, though, do not ever be in the same room with Red's rhetoric, because if that bag breaks, you're in trouble.
Oof.
Yeah, you're in trouble. I've heard horror stories, so I'm just looking out for you. Be very wary. Yeah. Now, I mean, if he wears double bag, then you're probably good to go. But I mean,
okay.
But make sure he puts the plastic bag over the paper bag. He has a tendency to put plastic bags over his head first and kind of suffocates a little bit. He hasn't gotten it down yet. Yeah. So.
Oh, okay, got it. So it's okay. He's in another country. I'm sure I'll be pretty safe. I think I'll be okay.
All right. So let's look at some of these comments here. How about that? We dive into these things.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to watch the outside video, or do you just want to go to your channel and read them off in order?
Oh yeah, I can pull them up on my channel.
All right, pull them up. So.
Whoop-a-doop-a-doop.
I like comment reading. Those are one of my favorite things to do. And people are like, well, Steve deletes comments. I'm like, yes, I do. I have had so many people leave so many weird, bizarre, just disturbing comments on my videos, and I'm sorry. It's just especially when they're meant to harm people. You don't get that. You don't get that. I was actually catching up on them today because I was reading them the day before, and then I noticed that like a good chunk of them got caught up in the filter
auto.
Yeah. Mine's amazing. I couldn't live without that. It's great.
Oh, that thing existing is fantastic.
Yes.
But I noticed there was a bunch that got caught up. So all of those. So if you typed a comment and for some reason it wasn't showing up until today, it should be there now because I put all of the comments through that were.
Oh, that's a great point. Sometimes the spam filter or my filters will catch something and somebody will say, "Hey, my comment disappeared." Just give it a day. I usually go through them every day in the morning. So it just happens. We all have to go through that. Even if we didn't have it set for certain things, certain words. It just sometimes automatically, we'll do it.
YouTube also changes up its algorithm sometimes, so things that wouldn't have got caught in the past get caught now.
Somebody said, I just got here to hear Steve talking about putting a plastic bag on someone's head. What did I come into? Hey, well, we gotta go to kinks, right?
Hey.
All right, so how about you start us off with your pin tweet there when you get it up?
If Puck likes to hang out here like this on this chair, I might get a Puck cam for the new year.
Smitty says 30 people are upset at Cheshire's perfect interview skills. She's halfway to deprogramming the poor guy. I know, right? I'm not a suck up to Chesh, and Chesh is not a suck up to me. When we think we do I think we always do a decent job. When we do a little bit better job, we get a little, more credit. If we fail on something a little bit, or maybe it's just something different, we're both very open on, hey, maybe this could have done this different or that, and both of us are very accepting of that. But this video, the way she handled this was masterful. I mean, it's just. I
accept
and I have no
criticism.
reason to suck up to you. So when I give a compliment, it is very sincere.
I accept no criticism of this interview. Fuck off. It was 6 hours. Leave me alone.
Yeah, that is my only criticism. Please don't do that again. Don't have 6 hour videos. Because nobody's going to sit there and watch it. It was so good, but it's 6 hours? Come on. Do it in
I'm expecting, actually, we should probably put, so if anybody hasn't seen it or wants to see it, here's the link to
it's
it.
in the video. I put it in the video description too.
I expect you all to go over there, so by the time we get to the bottom of the newest comments, I'm going to have to refresh, and I see a bunch of comments saying hi Reds.
Wait, are you telling people to spam your own videos? Wait, I guess you can do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so the first one, I actually really appreciated this comment, which is why I pinned it. I was like, yeah, Steve, your election video was 7 hours, and I watched it all.
Well, that was election coverage. I didn't expect people to go back and watch that. Nobody's going to do that. This is a video worth watching.
I wonder if do you think their election was maybe more important?
Honestly, I don't even know at this point. Well, yeah, we got Trump out. I mean, Trump was voted out 3 days ago, technically, when the the Electoral College.
I mean the video being more important.
Not really.
All right. So the first, the pinned comment is, "Thank you, Chesh. I haven't seen such a great discussion of a dissection of a mind refusing to follow its own logic in the face of its own bias since the glory days of flat Earth debunking." I take that as a huge compliment.
That is that's straight up like awesome.
That's why I pinned it. I was like, it's really hard when you get into nuanced conversations like this to find the same kind of to get to that level of debunking somebody, only because some things are so subjective, and sometimes things don't have a black or white answer. It's very gray. So when you're dealing with flat Earth, you're like, no, gravity. Here's the equation. Here's the math. You're just wrong. Whereas stuff like this, there's
Bullinator points it out. I don't know. Do you remember Rose Patton? It's going back a half a decade or so. I mean, she's been around a few years ago. But Rose Patton was a conspiratorial nightmare. And there wasn't a conspiracy theory she didn't accept. And she would use any ad hoc rationalization to try to get out as an escape hatch any type of argument. It was surreal. I mean, she wasn't like she was like not smart or anything like that. I mean, but she was just very good at escape hatching and very good at ad hoc reasoning. But she was into chemtrails, flat Earth, the whole 9 yards. Nothing can get through to her. Matter of fact, somebody just recently, an epistemological friend of mine, claimed certain groups of people, or he said that he used the phrase "students without input jacks," and I love that. And I'm going to steal that from him, because that's exactly what I've seen with certain groups of people. They're students without input jacks. They have no ability to learn anything. They think they understand and know everything about a particular thing. I mean, like we see it on Twitter. I mean, I'm engaged in that whole 0.99 repeating equals one thing again, which in objective reality is fact, right? I mean, objective maths. But when you're denying certain things and you don't understand the concepts, and you clearly don't understand the concepts, and you don't want to learn them because you're just so set that this isn't true. Yeah, you're a student with no input jacks. So
I think that kind of falls into the same thing that we were discussing last Thursday over on my channel, as well as this tonight later at 11 is going to go on a little bit more, and it's having that conversation about philosophy and mathematics, and where philosophy and science have diverged, and where maybe it would be a good idea to bring them back together.
Oh, I watched that with Landon and Manya.
Yeah, Landon, Amania,
really
and Mr.
good.
Serious.
Yeah, and
they're going to be on again tonight,
as
far as I know. And so we'll see who. There's been a couple of other people who have been invited, so we'll see.
Yeah, Landon had actually said, he wanted to know if you represented my position properly, and I did say something to him, I think, in a tweet. But when you run into him again tonight, let him know. Yes, he did. I didn't have any issue with anything he was saying. But I love what Landon said. Landon is just succinct sometimes, right? He's just to the point, and he made it very clear. Look. Steve is about facts, and Steve has some knowledge about these topics. Now, he's not some kind of expert by any stretch of imagination. I'm a layperson, but I like to read about him, and I have a base level understanding. And I think I understand most concepts fairly decently enough to at least try to explain them to the average layperson. However, he has told people, look, if you're going to say Steve is wrong, show him facts, right? He said, don't argue facts with Steve. If you do, however, make sure that you have the facts to back it up. Because if you show him the facts and you show him that he's wrong by using logic and reason and proofs, he will thank you for it. And I love the way he put that, because I have done that numerous times. When somebody uses actual logic or has shown me that I'm incorrect on an understanding of something, I thank them for that, because I'm like, oh crap, I did have this wrong. I get it now. Thank you.
Well, I also think that there's something to be said for meeting people where they're at. You in particular, Steve, have a particular way of going about things. And if you want to convince Steve, you need to talk to Steve. You need to meet Steve on his level. If you're talking to me and you want to know what I think, or you want to convince me of something, you need to talk to me on my level. I wasn't trying to convince Gary necessarily, but I was trying to understand him. So I met him on his level.
You did a very good job. Much better than I could have. I couldn't reach his level. Just couldn't. It's just bizarre.
Well, and that's what, and sometimes that's what matters, and that's what's important, is that if you're trying to converse with somebody, you have to understand that you need to meet them where they're at sometimes. Now, not every time. Sometimes you need to pull somebody to your level a little bit too, because that's usually where you find where people are going to be honest or dishonest, because Gary was honest enough to meet me, or tried his best to meet me where he could, and I tried my best to meet him where I could. And now, were there still things that were getting mixed up? Oh, more than likely.
Yeah, you can see the gears turning in his head. They were grinding and they were coming to a complete halt. So Diz Bullen said, yeah, in my defense, though, I didn't know it was going to be a 7 hours either. I watched it live. Yeah, no, in my defense, I didn't know it was going to be a 7-hour political stream either. In my defense, I also
didn't know mine was going to be 6.
Yeah, no, okay. No, I mean, I'll give you that.
Chris Foster for 9, by the way, said, quote, "The beautiful thing about learning is that no one can take it away from you," end quote. Just a nice quote for 2 of my favorite people. Enjoy your upcoming weekend.
Oh, thank you, so Chris, very much. I appreciate that. Yeah, no, I think you're exactly right on that as well. People can say, look, this person knows something about this, or they don't know, and that's fine. People can be subjectively opinionated on an evaluation, and I get that, right? If people think that I don't know what I'm talking about, that's great. Whatever, more power to them. However, like I said, there are some things like objectively verifiable things, like math. I'm not a mathematician, but I have a basic understanding of math. First and second year calculus, not this super high stuff, but I mean a general education in mathematics. And I can show people how to do these maths, right? And so when somebody said, well, Steve doesn't know basic math, okay. All you have to do is demonstrate to me that I'm having a conceptual error about something, and I'll thank you for it. However, how many people have done that? None that I'm aware of. Yeah. So I mean, like Landon's probably the same way. I mean, if anybody can say, "Hey, Landon, I think you have a mistake here," or something like that, he'll correct it. And I've already caught him in one mistake, and I'm very proud of it. Although it wasn't a mistake, it was just, well, he puts a notation on the board and he got something wrong. As soon as he pointed it out, he recognized it and he fixed it, right? Which is not really a mistake, but it's as close as you're going to get for Landon, right?
I think that if I'm going to do any more conversations like that, I'm going to have to get a wine rack installed under my desk, and maybe a shelf put up here with some hard liquor, and maybe a mini fridge with some mixer and an ice tray.
Well, and you can make a whole show out of it, like whining with wine or something. I don't know. Chatting with Chesh. There you go.
I could do a chatting with Chesh, but like, who the
I love alliteration, by the way. I'm a big alliteration fan. All right, so moving on here. We're an hour in and we've only got to one comment.
Okay, I never remember what FWIW stands for. Is it?
Where is it?
Do you remember what FWIW is?
What is it? FW?
IW. Somebody told me what this was the other day.
I don't see it. What is it again? F what?
FWIW.
For what it's worth.
I'm so bad at these. Yes, thank you. For what it's worth. I'm so
I had to think about that too for a second.
Bad at initials like that. I'm so bad at them. Okay. For what it's worth, the only people I've seen making accusations against Steve and against Sweet are friends of Nate. I see people from all directions who never met each other calling Nate out for lying about them. It's not a struggle to believe her, and she didn't even ask for anything but to be left alone. We see his response was to lie again and send his dogs after her even more. That send his dogs after her even more. They've been bragging about it on Twitter, how they'll make even more videos lying about her. So again, clear who the bullies are to me. I don't like how Steve handled that warden situation, but people have been insane over that as well. Gary, I think, may at least almost see these things. Maybe after some time to process. Great show, however frustrating. I'm sure it'll help people.
Yeah,
and then they followed up with, also, I noticed Gary was an absolute nightmare on Twitter. He says he's working on getting better and wants a clean slate. So what did Sweet say or do that's so much worse than Gary's behavior that she is demonized and slandered forever, and he excuses
perfectly
it?
That I don't know who that person is, but they couldn't be more spot on. None of this was ever about the guy had on. None of this was about David Warden. All of this was basically because Nate, Fiona, and the entire group is one group. That is one group that we left. We distanced ourselves from Nate. We distanced ourselves from Fiona. Exile's a part of that group, although I didn't know her then. And so it's all about character assassination of me merely because it's me. It has nothing to do with anything else. It's so weird that it's basically, why is it just one group that is doing this and yet nobody else gives a shit? Everybody else, all these comments seem to point out that they recognize what's actually happening.
I've also noticed that most of those people aren't actually blocked and can comment on my channel. Not a single one of them has.
I wouldn't know what they would. I mean, they would probably get eviscerated because people are seeing their arguments are bullshit. Rodent, no last name, $5. The great thing about learning, if I have $1 and then give you $1, now I don't have $1. If I give you an idea, we both have an idea. Oh, so ideas multiply and spread. Ooh. Yeah. So wait, isn't it a violation of mathematics? One idea plus, wait, no, well, one idea minus one idea equals two ideas?
Are we going to have to get into the philosophy of what an idea is?
No, because I'm still trying to explain to people these concepts on Twitter, and I'm going to have a hangout one day on objectivism, Ayn Rand's objectivism. And I really, honest to God, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but I've never once met an objectivist that made any sense to me. I think the Ayn Rand objectivism is some gateway drug to philosophy for the people that actually don't want to learn actual philosophy. I've talked to people that are actual philosophers that have actually told me the exact same thing. They're like, yeah, no philosopher takes objectivism seriously.
So now I'm going to have to go learn that philosophy just so I can be that kind of philosophy person.
Good luck.
So that way I can just argue with Steve all the time.
Good luck. I'm telling you, if you can understand objectivism in a way that's coherent, let me know, because I have yet to find anybody who can to explain it in proper terms. And plus, they get things wrong. I had a person on Twitter who literally is an objectivist, but they don't understand Hume's problem of induction, and I asked them, what do you think Hume's problem of induction is? And they got it completely wrong. And then I asked a friend of mine who is an expert in epistemology, and they said, yeah, Rand said she had a way to resolve Hume's problem, but she never told her what it was, and it makes no sense. He's like, these people have no idea how to resolve any of this stuff.
I wonder if it'd be valuable to have Dave on and talk to him maybe a little bit about.
If he knows, I don't know very many people that really dive that much. And just
maybe it would be valuable to bring on a couple of people who are interested in philosophy and just go through Ayn Rand's philosophy and not necessarily criticize it, just to explain it.
Yeah, I would be down for that. Yeah, I mean, like,
well, why don't you do an Ask a Philosopher series about it?
Yeah, I'll ask David, Trolley Dave, but. Yeah, like Billionaire says, you and Mark Pellegrino are having fun. But Mark, I love Mark. He's a nice guy. We've talked for quite some time now. However, he said something that I have to push back on, right? Or else I'm going to be inconsistent. I have a friend who's called the Sith, Last Sith, and he's working on a master's degree in cosmology. The guy knows math. He did a mathematical proof, a simple one, that was 100% correct. And Mark Pellegrino said, "Oh, that's just sophistry." Kind of thing. And I was like, no, that's not sophistry. That's math. There's a huge difference between sophistry, which I'm a big fan of if used properly. Sophistry is a huge tool that people can use properly. But when you say math is sophistic,
Mhm.
I have to take umbrage to that clearly, because that makes no sense. That's like saying I showed a mathematical proof that the square root of 2 is irrational. Oh, that's a sophistry. Well, no, that's math.
Hmm. Hmm.
So it's kind of odd. So I mean, again, it's hard. It's hard when you like. I can't have a full-on conversation with Mark Pellegrino about math on Twitter. It's just not the place for it.
Yeah, that's just not gonna fly. You need like a forum.
Yeah.
And free time, which neither of you have that much of.
Well, I have a hangout with him coming up this month. So.
Oh, good.
I'll talk to him more about maybe having future. I know he wants to come on again, but I got a hangout coming up with him. It's not live though; it's off air.
I'm hoping that I can take some time to listen to a little bit more of their podcast, because I think that would be helpful for me, anyway.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, and I might. Yeah, like I said, I know that like Mark Pellegrino, he talks about philosophy, and I don't just not understand him. He uses the words in a way I do understand. But there are people that follow him that I don't think are as philosophically minded as maybe he is, and that they try to emulate him and use words, and it just doesn't make any sense to me. And I'm not trying to be obtuse. Guys know me. I'm never obtuse when it comes to discussions. If I say I don't understand you, I'm not lying to you. I say I'm not going to use that as an excuse. One, you might be telling me something perfectly fine and I don't understand, I want to learn, or two, you're using terminology in a way that I am not familiar with, which is inconducive to an actual conversation. And then they say, well, you're using philosophical jargon to confuse people. No, I'm using philosophical jargon to understand. These are not easy topics. It's very hard to talk about a very complex concept using very lay terminology. It's very difficult to do. And I don't have that skill set to do it that well, because I don't know if you can in some cases. I think there are some, if you want to talk about non-reductive physicalism, can you describe that in a very lay person's term? I would have a hard time doing that, So,
we are so off topic.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah.
He's been having this conversation on Twitter for 2 days, and I think he just really wants to talk about it.
I was venting. All right, next one. By the way, I hope these are in the same order. Or I sorted by most recent, I think.
Yeah, I started by new.
All right, so Danny would be the next one.
I've got is Danny B.
Yeah, all right, we're good.
Not to do an appeal to fallacy, but it's funny, the William Shatner and Mark Pellegrino, I'm bad with names, but Lucifer from Supernatural, both saw through these people's insanity independently of being told to. They're both pretty experienced with internet trolls and bullies. Nate and his bullies did what they always do, which is butt in, harass, and not take no for an answer. They only go after people around Steve in any way. Meanwhile, actual predators, like them, go ignored. How many other people who hosted Warden have been attacked relentlessly by these people? None, just Steve? How odd.
Yeah, no, exactly true. Now, there was a group that was going after him exclusively. I know they existed.
But it wasn't these people. That's a different group of people.
Well, yeah, a different group of people that I don't remember any of their names, so don't ask me. I don't remember any of them. But I do know from experience, I went into a Discord with these people as an invited guest on one of their channels, and I told them, I'm not here to talk about this particular topic. I'm here to talk about something else. I just don't have an interest in this. And they basically started stalking me for several weeks on my videos. I even turned off comments on Combo. And I could even said, yes, this guy has his own group of trolls. And they did exactly to me what my trolls do to other people. They tried to say, hey, come into Discord so we can talk to you. And if you don't, they will harass you. They've told Chris Attlee, atheist pastor, hey, if you don't come into Discord and have a conversation with us, we're going to make sure you don't have any atheists on your channel. We're going to make sure that you are blacklisted. They've told him this. You can ask him. I'm not speaking for him. I literally have said that this is what my group of trolls have told him. And he's not the only one. I've had other people tell me the exact same thing. And so 3 come to mind, actually. So when I said that, there's troll groups out there, I'm being legit about it, because when you tell me, hey, I'm going to be coming on my channel to talk about this, and you change the topic in a Discord, you're saying, hey, we're going to talk about this instead, I'm not interested, and then you harass me for it, I'm going to put that to a troll group, right? But that group met up with my troll group, and they started working together for a while now. I think they've distanced themselves from each other because they have nothing in common. Because my troll group doesn't give a damn
like
about.
One of them cares about a warden and the other one cares about you. So
yeah, exactly.
Because this funny thing that.
Yeah, I mean, if trolls gave a shit about this guy Warden, let them go fucking after Warden. Let them go watch their hit videos and go after the people that. How many people have had him on other people's channels? Numerous. So clearly, it's not about him. It's about trying to attack my character. By the way, I'm going to stand by the fact that I have ethics, and I have the fact that I will give people principle of charity, and I'm not going to treat people like shit merely because of their historical, things they've done in the past. And they want me to, right? They're the kind of people that do. They're the kind of people. Treat this person the way they want to be. They think they should be treated, or else we're going to blacklist you. And I told them to fuck off. And that's why I got blacklisted, because I didn't go with the pack. I was anti-bandwagon. And I stood up for myself, and they've been harassing me ever since. It's weird. It's like, okay, so I'm doing what I think is ethically right by not, shitting on somebody because they tell me to shit on somebody like they do the people nowadays. They've told how many people out there have had this group approach them and tell them, hey, shit on Steve or we're going to come after you. I know for a fact 3 people I could name right now have had that happen.
It's agree with us or else.
Yeah. And I'm not even talking about you or Sweet or any of them.
Okay, so what I'm thinking here is, I think that we saw that with Gary was the or else. He's concerned he cannot get past that bias right now because of that or else. I wasn't mean to him. These comments haven't been mean to him. He hasn't been like attacked by anybody on Twitter that are coming from sort of like more the people who kind of follow around with us, but he's still in this position where he's like, oh, I'm going to take a break for my mental health away from the internet. So like, where is the stress coming from? Because it's not coming from these people. So there's something happening with him somewhere else that's causing this stress. And I'm concerned for him that it's the or else. And that's just a genuine concern for him, and that he's okay and that he's not being bullied, which from what we've seen of these people and what happens when these sorts of conversations take place is they will berate that person and then tell that person they're doing it for their own good, and it's just gaslighting.
Yeah. Oh,
and
absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
So they'll be super duper nice to you, but also be telling you to fuck off or do what we say or else. And that I'm concerned that or else may be happening to Gary right now.
Yeah, Disturbance kind of hits the nail on the head. He says, this is why I'm a fan of Steve McRae, or Steve, thank you. Most of what he talks about goes over my head. I'm sorry, I don't mean to, but I have a wide variety, but if you think goes over your head, let me know. And sometimes he can get heated. Yeah, okay. He has strong morals, thank you, and doesn't fall into tribalism. That is the best statement I've ever heard about not falling into tribalism. Anybody who says that I fall into tribalism doesn't know what the hell they're talking about. I am like the anti-tribalist person. Don't you think that if I wanted to have gotten ahead in YouTube more than I have, and have a popular channel, I mean, I lose subs left and right. Like daily I lose subs. I don't care. My view count has gone way down since we started kind of shifting focus away from certain types of drama, which is perfectly fine. I like talking about philosophy and science, and they don't get as many views. That's fine. I don't care. But don't you think that I've wanted to get more ahead in science? I would have sucked up to these atheist activists out there like Aaron, who was a friend of mine, until, he was pointed out that he was wrong, and nope, can't be friends with Steve any longer. Or Matt Dillahunty, who I was never friends with, who pointed out he was wrong. Oh, I have to block Steve. I don't suck up to them.
Steve, keep in mind, when Aaron has been pointed out he's wrong on like multiple areas, he tends to turtle up.
Yeah.
But notice that his dislike and continual stating of these facts tends to stick with you, and the people he's citing is fucking Nate.
Yeah. Oh yeah. When Aaron cited Nate as a refutation.
Logic, does that mean that Aaron Ra is an apologist for sexual abuse? By their logic?
By their logic, I guess you can make that inference. That's why I think their logic is shit. I don't think
he is, and that's stupid. And anybody saying that is stupid, yeah. And you shouldn't say that because it's stupid. Stop being stupid.
But the thing is that Nate's logic is bad. Anybody who knows logic will tell you that his logic is horrible, and he's admitted. I have a message from him saying, "Hey, Steve, you're 100% right on your logic. I was wrong. Blah blah blah." And he finally admitted to me. But but whatever. But the fact remains, when Aaron Robb cites somebody who's that bad at logic as a refutation, and then we ask Aaron, well, how did he disprove Steve's logic? Oh, here's the video. No. What in the video did he do to disprove it? Because I've read Steve's logic. It's spot on. I don't have a problem with it. And Aaron can't explain it. And what's Aaron's statement? If you can't show it, you don't know it?
Yep.
Yeah. All right.
That's awkward. Do you want to read the next one?
Yeah, I'll read the next one. By the way, I want to put a shout out to Macabre out there. I hope you're doing well. Macabre Malefica has been around a very long time in the DDC. I've known him probably longer than anybody here, I guess, maybe, besides Bull. But he's seen all this happen firsthand, and he's been going through some stuff. And we've got your back, buddy. He's a good guy. Very good guy. Yeah, love. So big shout out to you, my friend. I'm honored to be his friend because Macabre is not an easy guy to get along with.
He just go in gush mode.
Yeah, I'm telling you, he tells it the way it is. He's blunt. That's why I happen to like him. And if you just kind of like are an asshole, he'll fuck you up. And so he's not an easy guy to get along with, like me sometimes, and I respect that about him. I want him to change. All right.
I don't think he's too hard to get along. The thing is like the people that I've noticed that have trouble getting along with people like you or Macabre are people who have like this ego and self-entitlement that they aren't willing to, they're not willing to communicate.
Absolutely. No, Bull, you're not old. All right. So we're on Bro.
Bull is God. He's the oldest you could possibly be.
He's infinitely old. All right. So Bro Lonabo. So I don't comment much, and I came here from Steve's channel. I do watch Caffeine Corner. Thank you. But I'm a dude who is a victim of sexual assault. I have children. This guy and friends reassure me I'm not overprotective to keep my kids offline as long as possible. Maybe it's not his fault, but if this is what they're pushing, that isn't being questioned. It's concerning to say the least. No matter what someone does, they don't deserve sexual assault, nor should be, I'd say SA for abbreviations, nor should SA be questioned simply based upon subjective feelings about irregular behavior. Even if they were proven to lie about SA, which no one here has, I assume, they shouldn't be questioned except for around that specific case. I've done some messed up things in my life, but that doesn't change the fact I was SA as a kid. Difficult enough to talk about as a man without worrying I'll be labeled a liar because of my past. Regardless of the person, this is messed up and the details don't really matter. I haven't seen where Sweet accused Nate of XA. I just saw her say she felt harassed. Not all harassment is sexual in nature, of course. If she wanted to lie to hurt him, why not say it was worse? That's a good point. I get the impression from her tweets that she's downplaying it and no one should feel they have to. And by the way, I will tell you off the record, in our live, that is true. I agree with you. She is downplaying.
Off the record.
Even though we're live, she is downplaying it. But I know why she is, and I understand. Crazy you kept this convo going so long, but it seemed as least productive for others, and hope it was for Gary here too. Be sure he gets this feedback if possible. Perhaps sometimes people just don't know. Yeah, that's that.
I hope the best for Gary. I do hope that this conversation is a little bit enlightening for everybody, and as helpful as it possibly could be.
We'll see. Like I said, I got nothing personal against Gary. He's a low man on the totem pole. I mean, he's just a grunt in all this.
I mean, I don't have anything personal against most of these people because I don't really care if. I know you do. You were friends with these people. These are people that you were maybe acquaintances with, maybe a little bit more than that. But you never expected them to go so far and say something so horrible. But I don't know any of these people at all on any personal level in any way whatsoever. They have huge beef with me, but I actually have zero beef with them because I don't care what they say about me.
And I never asked you to, right? You don't have to have beef with them merely because I have beef with them. I mean, nobody holds you to that kind of thing.
They have to have beef, but they have to have beef. That's the thing. They're the ones who have to have beef with me because I don't.
It's weird.
Or else.
Moon says, people really don't like me either. I don't even care, but I love y'all. We love you. But yeah, no, I mean, Moon gets it as well. I mean, I think a lot of people in our live chat, a lot of people that watch Caffeine Corner, and a lot of people watch these shows, they empathize because they've been through it. They've seen it firsthand, either with themselves in their own lives, or they've seen it what we've described happening to us. And
Gary spent a lot of time recommending to go and watch Nate's video about what Sweet said. And I actually might recommend that people do the same thing. Only because, but read what Sweet said, then watch
Yeah.
how Nate reacted.
Yeah, and I gotta
And
tell you, if
keep
somebody
in
calls
mind,
Sweet a liar, they better have some goddamn good evidence.
keep in mind, and like keep Sweet's tweets up on the side if you can, and actually look at her behavior, look at his behavior, and sort of the whole situation. You don't necessarily have to believe one or the other, because I'm sure we all agree that perception can be everything. But you'll notice some inconsistencies, I think, if you're actually to read what she said and then watch that
Well, do you
video.
notice that her things are responsive in nature? He makes the accusations, he's accusatory, he's harassing, and then she responds because she feels like she needs to defend herself, which I think she has absolutely every right to do, obviously, and she does it very effectively. I mean, she has murder with words, but she's not the aggressor. She's never made a video on him. She's never falsely accused him of anything. She's never made up stuff. And somebody pointed out earlier, why wouldn't she make it worse if she wasn't telling the truth? She's telling you the truth. I know she's telling the truth because I've seen it happen. I've seen these interactions in real time. And I don't think there's anybody out there that knows Sweet as well as I do for the most part. I mean, you know her very well, but how many people really know her? So, I mean, I know for a fact she's telling the truth. I've seen it.
Yeah. So I'm just going to go to the next one.
All right.
From Pipe Club.
Yep.
I don't see how anyone could take believing in someone's innocence as an apologetic for the alleged crime, especially if they're openly against that crime. Gary seems to believe in his friend's innocence, at least in intention, even though the acts have been proven to occur. I'm going to share this where able and tag #MeToo. This rhetoric is disturbing.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Look, my beliefs are irrelevant, and they're not rape apologetics by any stretch of the imagination. And even, I even changed it later on and said, look, if we want to come to a meeting of the minds, I'm just agnostic on the situation, right? I'm not a defender of the guy. I've never made a video defending this guy ever. So, I mean, for them to come at me, say I'm some kind of defender of David Earl Warden, or I'm some kind of rape apologist, is absolutely ridiculous. I've never made a video about the guy. I couldn't care less about talking about him. He's not anybody in my life. And so my beliefs are irrelevant. Now, somebody asking me, hey, do you believe certain thing? I can give what's called a self-assessment. Doesn't mean I'm trying to convince anybody. I've never tried to change somebody's mind one way or another about his conviction. I'm not. That's not my thing. I have nothing to do with that.
That's something that you'll notice, right? You don't go around trying to convince people anything about Warden in any way, shape, or form.
None.
You don't even try to convince anybody of whatever your opinion is, which you barely ever talk about. But what you do notice is you do see a lot of people trying to convince others that Steve is or is not a specific way.
Yep, dozens of these people. I try to convince people. I'm not trying to convince anybody anything when it comes to this guy. I don't care.
One thing that I got that I think this person makes a good point about this being like a little bit disturbing, and it's that it is kind of strange to see someone make this claim, go with it, then hear the names, and then flip. And it's like and then there's just this cogwheel that goes that you see happening, and it's like you can almost see in their mind of them trying to either excuse or justify. Like the only apologetics that took place in that video was Gary engaging in apologetics for multiple things. So because again, this conversation didn't really actually have any of my opinions in it.
Yeah, and by the way, Nate took quotes from a live chat that were completely out of context. Again, when you have something from a live chat quote, you have to put it in context of what the response was toward. And I remember very specifically on some of those responses, I wasn't even talking about his conviction. I was talking about when I said I believed him about certain things. I actually, I know for a fact on at least one of the things that Nate showed, I remember distinctly. I was talking about, I believe the guy having these trolls in Discord that would try to convince people to go attack him. That's what I believed him about.
That's why it's important to,
and that's a huge difference.
Live chat. If you ever see anybody taking screenshots from a live chat and they don't have the timestamp in them, because that's a toggle, I would immediately be suspicious of what is being.
Now, again, and I even said, look, I'm agnostic on the guy, whether his story or not, did it happen, didn't happen. I'm agnostic on it, right? I said before I believed him. I'll bring that back a little bit just if it makes somebody happy to. I'm agnostic on it. Okay, what's wrong with that? I can't be agnostic on something because I haven't evaluated it, even though I have, and I have looked at it. But sure, I'll draw it back to it. I have no way of determining one way or another, and so I'm just going to give somebody the benefit of the doubt. What's wrong with that?
Dan Cooper said, more thought. From what I've seen from Sweet, I bet if Gary talked to her like a person instead of being how he was on Twitter with you all, she'd give him every chance to be a friend or at least have a conversation, much as you are. I wouldn't blame her if she didn't based on all this now, but I've seen her be overly charitable so many times.
Yes.
If she says Nate crossed lines with her, I believe her. Even if I didn't know anything about her, I'd believe her based on Nate's behavior alone. But Gary seems to think only Sweet should be judged based on behavior, bracket, not even actual behavior, but out of context behavior, end bracket. But Nate's proven behavior is excused. I can't stress enough how not okay that is.
I agree, and it should be based upon Nate's behavior. I mean, anybody can go look at this stuff and see the disparity between what Nate puts out about Sweet and what Sweet has said about Nate completely. And this is, I mean, people can say, well, you're just, you're defending Sweet. I'm not actually. I'm pointing out there's huge discrepancies here.
Well, yeah, I think somebody had mentioned that I was just defending people in this video.
Yeah.
I did zero defending of anybody in this video.
Yeah.
I said that Sweet didn't say what Nate said. That's not a defense of Sweet. That's an attack on Nate.
Well, but the same thing. I mean, the reply above from Manya, Golden Unicorn, she says, "Oh yeah, tell that to people who say Steve is appealing to apologetics because you believe the innocence of someone accused of rape." Which, as you pointed out, I never said that. I never said that. I never used the word innocent. He is guilty of rape. I mean, he was convicted. That is a legal term. I use it that way. So why? So I've never said he was innocent. And when you pointed out to Gary, because Gary kept on saying, "Well, Steve said he was innocent," and you're like, "Where did Steve say this?" He's like, "Well, he implied." No, those are very specific words. If you're saying that I say a very specific word, you need to document where I use that particular word and in what context. To him, they just blends them all together in a blender brain kind of thing.
One of the reasons I went over with Gary near the beginning about perception and implication to be like, okay, so you agree that different people can interpret things in a different way.
Correct.
Well, why would I take Nate or your interpretation of something Steve said? Why should just that alone? Then let alone that I know Steve relatively well and I can ask Steve. So tell me one reason why I should trust your interpretation of it, that being the only way it could be taken, because that's the way they present it.
Yeah.
So.
And I don't obfuscate my positions. I'm very direct. Let's see here. I'll read the next one. Hallow partition. This G-rape apology stuff is uncomfy.
Grape. It says grape, damn it.
Oh, grape. Oh, grape. I thought it was like G-rape. This grape apology stuff is uncomfortable. Maybe that's a typo. I don't know. Steve.
It says uncomfy.
Uncomfy.
It's so uncomfy.
No, the grape stuff. I don't know. Yeah. Steve being potentially wrong about a single case is not apologetics. Did I not say, hey, look, if I'm wrong on it, I'm wrong on it. Okay, life moves on. I'm not trying to convince anybody. So I'm not doing anything. I don't talk about this guy. I couldn't care.
You're also not saying that the crime was okay if it happened.
Right. Clearly, that would be rape apologetics. Like I said, people saying things like, it wasn't rape because, hey, she was wearing this dress. She was clearly asking for it. That's rape apologetics. I hope my daughter never encounters someone like Gary who thinks he gets to arbitrarily decide what which victims matter. I agree.
I hope for Gary's sake that Gary isn't actually like that. I think that Gary is echoing other people. That does not excuse what he's saying or what he's doing, but I think that if he is only just echoing, I hope that he will find better people to start echoing. This definitely applies to some of the other people we've dealt with, however.
Agreed. You get to read the long one.
Oh, okay. So this is from Sam D'Angelo. Wait, so Sweet says Nate was a creepy dick to her years ago, which seems plausible, and she over time grew to hate him for his lies about her and her friends, which we've all seen, and people expect her to want to be around him over a rando she didn't or doesn't know. Isn't that up to her?
Hey, where have we heard that before? Oh, wait.
These people know nothing about what they are talking about. I knew her on Facebook before she got scared off or whatever. She used to talk people out of harming religion and abusive situations. Even people doing the abuse, we
I don't know.
that's supposed to be a word, but I'm not sure.
That's supposed to be a word. That's actually a good quote. That's supposed to be a word.
That's definitely a typo, but I'm not.
I'm
I'm
not sure
looking
either.
at my keyboard to see what would be close to the W
we're
there,
while-
but
we're-
it might have been on a phone, and so
I don't know. But the mystery is like Kofefe.
I think it's supposed to say abuse. We were in a few mutual groups, and I hope she doesn't mind me saying so, as they were private, but I won't name ... And plenty of people know her real name, as it was her handle then, and some people seem to know her address from that camp, so I think she's incredibly brave to even still be around. I think that's maybe what she was saying in the tweets she accepts was her mistake. Don't want to assume too much, but I worry, to be honest. Why don't her life consequences matter? I hope everyone can find a way to just stop. This stream was as frustrating as it was long, and I have so many more thoughts, but jeebus. I hope it was progress. Maybe he can figure it out and get his friends to find other hobbies than attacking, even if they think Steve is horrible. Hope it wasn't a waste of time and alcohol. I plan to join your Patreon. Oh, thanks. After the holidays, you deserve it. Well, thank you. Keep calling out bullshit. I learned a lot of new perspectives too. Hope they leave you all alone, or you can otherwise put an end to it. And hope my 2 cents helped Sam.
Yeah, and you know,
I think your 2 cents matters.
Yeah, brilliant. It was brilliant. The first line, especially, was exactly what I've been saying all along. But he puts something out here about knowing information about a person, right? Now, obviously, I know Sweet's information because I've sent her stuff, and you know, we're close. But should I end up hating her guts? Should I think she's the vile, most reprehensible, morally disgusting person on the planet? I would never release such information. Never. And that's the difference between me and I think these people. They would do it in a heartbeat. I think that they are so vindictive and so morally bankrupt that they are the people that if you're in these kind of groups and they have your personal information, a lot of people are scared to turn against somebody because they say, hey, look, they've got my personal information. They could use this against me. Yeah. Nobody should ever feel threatened that with me. If you think I'm wrong or you want to hate my guts, I still, to this day, have people that I hate personally that I know things about that I've never said anything about. And I never will, period.
Well, Steve has said on a couple of occasions publicly that he knows what Nate's bar number is.
Of course. Have I told you?
I don't know what. Nope. I have no idea what Nate's bar number is. I don't know.
So, I mean,
I also don't know his actual name.
I've never told you his actual name.
I only know his. Yeah, I don't know.
So yeah, I mean, if I wanted to harm somebody,
despite everything that Nate and these people say about Steve, he has not behaved in A, the way they claimed he would, or B, as deplorably as they have.
Yeah, I and it's so funny when they call my ethics in question, merely because I had this guy on, and like, really? That's what you think is an unethical behavior for all the things that you've got that they do, that people like this person, Sam D'Angelo, pointed out, people see their deplorable unethical behavior. I don't need to point those things out any longer. People see it for themselves. But when Bull, myself, Reds, Macabre, and a few other people saw these behaviors, most of us were like, hey, we do not want to be around these people because we saw the same things people are seeing now. And yet they still attack us saying we're not ethical. Well, what we dogs, we do all these things that they project us onto us.
You remember when Red shared that video about them calling G-Man's work, and Reds was in the call, not the one making the call, and then apologized to G-Man because
I wasn't in the call.
And the reason that you weren't in the call, and the reason that Reds was even there was because they were trying to, like, Reds was there to figure out whether or not G-Man was having a fraudulent fundraiser.
And did they go after any of them for that?
And he was.
but did they go after any of them for calling his work?
No.
I thought it was bad behavior. I didn't want to be around the group because the way they treated G-Man and Ronnie. I don't know if you remember Rocket Ronnie from Pearsism. I
You've
thought that,
talked about
yeah.
it, but I don't
Well,
know.
I mean, they were criticizing where he lived. They're criticizing his hair, and I'm like, these are just beyond the pale. I don't want to be a part of that kind of stuff.
Man, yeah, and they got so mad.
He's got luxurious hair too. I don't know why that's a criticism.
They got so mad when what on the sit down with the bunkers video that I was on about the Steve Spiracies. Oh, if you haven't seen that video, that's a fun.
Which by the way, they got so butthurt about Moon's video on Sit Down with the Bunkers, they false flagged it.
Moon wasn't on that episode actually, but yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Vermilion for $5. Saying someone thinks they're innocent and saying someone is innocent are two different things. Sort of, kind of. I mean, if you think somebody is innocent, you basically are saying they're innocent. I don't see a distinction with that because
no. You misread, Steve. Saying someone thinks they are innocent.
Oh, they are innocent. You're right. Okay, my bad.
Innocent. Yeah.
Yeah. If they say they're innocent, that I'm not saying that they're innocent. Yeah, you're right. Exactly. Yeah, that is vastly two different things.
So if I say Earl David Warden maintains his innocence and has throughout this entire time,
that doesn't mean
that's not a claim on my knowledge or a claim on my opinion.
Correct.
That's only this is what he said.
Correct.
Yay. Do you want the next one?
Sure. I read her tweet thread and looked at some other people's profiles. It seemed pretty clear which side is antagonizing and, quote, stalking, and it's not yours. Asking people for years to stop lying about you and leave you and your loved ones alone isn't harassment. Seen plenty of examples of Nate's lies, and they're all over Twitter and YouTube. It's not on one woman to prove. Whatever happened in the past, she's asking to be left alone for a long time, and the other side is constantly posting about her and her friends. That's what I see. If she wants to be left alone and isn't starting drama, then she should be left alone. Period. The other side sends a bad message that victims should be quiet because their abuser is more important in some way. It's shameful. I hope everybody works it out. This guy seems to be almost getting it. Bless your patience. And that's spot on too. I mean, you're exactly right. She doesn't want to be a part of any of this. She wants to be left out, but they keep dragging her back in and using her as a weapon merely because she associates with me. That's the only reason. I mean, she has six subs? 6 subs. She's not like a big YouTuber, so it's not like they're going after her for like trying to siphon off her subs like they do other people.
This 40K plus channel is attacking a woman with 6 subscribers and lying about what she said because she can't defend herself.
Correct.
And that's pathetic.
And that's why we're reading.
Pick on someone your own size, loser.
Yeah, I mean, at least I have a moderately. I don't have a large channel, but I've got some subs. But I have at least 80 people here listening that I can at least talk to about, and they know these things. I don't think any one of my subs.
That's why I was getting a kick out of when Unirock was trying to come after me because he was mad at you, and I was just like, oh no, my 1K sub channel.
Dude, I've had videos that have 23 people watching.
36,000 channels.
I'm doing some gaming stuff. I get like 30 people watching my gaming streams. I don't care. It's fun. It's fun. I mean, these people are so invested. Like, oh look, if you're not getting views, you're a bad person or something like that. I tell you what, my self-worth is not contingent about how many views I get, or it's not even contingent about how many people agree with me. It's contingent upon how I value myself and the ethics that I have for myself, which I have very strong opinions about. And I'm the guy that lays awake like going, okay, what should I do here? Is this the correct decision? What would you be doing in this decision? What is ethical? Chesh knows I ponder these things.
Well, we've had discussions about it. One of them was with Nate when Nate decided to come over to your video and drop $50 to say some bullshit. And you retracted the message and said, I'll send that money back or whatever. And I said, why? Because you read the message.
Yeah.
You read the message out. He gave you the money to have his message read. He can't pay you to accept whatever he said. And then he was crying that he didn't get his money back because I'm like, there is no ethical consider. But we had that discussion on air.
Well, I mean,
where there was I was like, no.
I want to do what ethically is right. Right? I really, honest to God, do. And so, I mean, even to people people I can't stand, what is the ethical? Well, here's the ethical quant, and this is why I get into like people that do like divine command theory, because I think they advocate their moral compass to like some deity. But to me, I don't have a deity to go, okay, well, God says to do this. Although I don't know what God would say in that particular instance, what the correct action to do is. But yeah, no, and you made a valid point. I'm like, okay, yeah, you're right. I don't have and I said I don't have an ethical quandary here.
3 of you that were like, yeah, and then I was like, no, and then 3 of you were like, well, maybe not.
Well, but don't you think that an ethical person would take pause? Now, I mean, I was like, okay,
sure.
What is the ethical thing to do here? Let's have arguments on it, and then I'll make a decision. I don't think I did anything wrong by pause.
You made a snap decision based on good morals. Because you were like, listen, I don't want this. I don't want to be involved in this. And I think this is the right thing to do. I said, but is that your ethical consideration? And then
she corrupted my ethics. This is why she's chaotic neutral. All right.
I wasn't wrong.
No, I listened and I agreed, right? But ethical considerations take molding. They like you said, people make snap things all the time, right? Yeah. An honest person will refine those things, and then an honest person looking in will allow somebody to refine those things. None of these people care about refinement. They'll say, oh, Steve said this. Context be damned. Nuance be damned. Refinement be damned. That is dishonest. That is a very dishonest interlocutor that's not caring about the conversation.
They also will not take any clarification.
None.
Right? So, like, if they say, Steve said this, and you're like, okay, I might have said that, but that's not what I meant. Here's what I meant.
Yes.
They won't take that.
Yeah.
But how many hours? How many hours did I spend trying to understand what Gary meant?
Do you know anybody that's out there, anybody that's watching, have anybody ever said something and then wants to basically clarify what they meant? They said it in a way that maybe could be taken different ways, or they didn't express themselves in the most direct way to they could for the conveying the concept trying to get across, or they just made a mistake. And how infuriating it is for somebody not to allow somebody to correct those things, or to change them, or modify them, or to do a rejoinder to themselves. I think most people have experienced that firsthand in these conversations, especially when you have this many hours of video. I mean, I'll ask the audience: have you guys ever had this happen where you've stated something you wanted to clarify in a discussion, and people just trying to shut you down on it? You know.
I have. Well, that's just trying to strong arm somebody into a position that they're not holding.
Correct.
Or straw manning, or a little bit of both. I haven't finished it yet. So this is from Sandra. I haven't finished it yet. Hopefully I have time later, but my blood is boiling. My sister wasn't believed about being raped by her husband because he proved she had lied about being sick once. That's bullshit.
Wow, that's a hell of a comparative, right?
Yeah, that's not. Oof. I'm not even kidding. That was the argument. Back then, I'm mature. It was just left as a domestic dispute. And it took years for her to prove violence and to get away so they can all shush up about that. I'm so sorry they have done this to you, ladies. I've never seen any of you be the antagonistic ones. You just respond and stand up to their defamation, and I respect that. No one deserves what I've seen them say about you, even if what they accused was true. But given their behavior, especially from Nate and his friends, I don't believe anything they say. And according to them, it's okay to not believe people who you don't like, right? So sad. Stay strong. #MeToo.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And let me give an example. Let's say like Cheshire said, hey,
that is a good point.
Steve cold cocked me, just fist to face kind of thing. And
Steve punched me in the face.
And she tells Monty this, right? And Monty
punched me in the face.
Yeah, let's say. By the way, people can understand chest being punched in the face, right? No, I'm kidding. Never hit a woman.
Slam my head in the wall. Why don't you?
I would have never struck a woman, and it's again ethics thing. If people are like, well, you struck a man, what's the difference? It's like, well, I again think there's some fundamental differences here, but.
He's sexist.
Dude, I'm the one that pulls the chair out for women, and I'm sexist. Okay, I'll take the heat for that. But if she said, "Hey, look, Steve struck me," and Monty says, I believe you because you're a friend, blah blah blah. But then she says, "Well, how'd this happen?" And all of a sudden, Chess said, "Oh, well, he came to my house, blah blah." And she's like, "Well, when has Steve ever left California?" Oh, and you have no evidence I ever left California, no evidence at all. And I mean, and let's say you said it happened at 5:00 Pacific, or 4:30 Pacific, December 17th, 2020, which is right now. And we're like, well, wait, Steve just was like in California streaming at the time. How did he hit you? So nothing of your story matches, right? there's a cause to be said. Hey, look, at this point, I don't have that principle of charity to believe you only because I have a rapport with you, or Monty would say it, a rapport with you. So I understand people wanted to believe their friends. I get that because it's based upon trust, right? You're basing it on a trust that you've had to build up with the person, but that doesn't mean you have to believe them ride or die.
There's a fundamental misunderstanding of the phrase believe all women or believe all victims. And it's misunderstanding believing as in I think they're telling the truth compared to listen, take seriously, and investigate. Because that keep in mind the context that believe all women came from.
Yes.
And the context is that people were not being believed. It wasn't that they said no, like that there was rape apologetics involved, because rape apologetics is actually a relatively new term. If people didn't believe that there was a rape that occurred, it's not apologetics. But if the reason they don't think that occurred because they are not listening or taking the accusation seriously, then they're not believing the person when they came forward. That's where that was birthed from.
Yeah,
so having the understanding of that context of that word and that phrasing and that sort of slogan of where it came from matters. So it doesn't mean that you have to believe people because they've made this claim. Like the claim itself demands to be believed by itself, by like what it is. No, it means that you need to take it seriously and understand and listen and get this person help.
That's where
get this investigated. But that means that there's another victim here potentially. Keep that in mind.
There's other phrases out there. Good, sorry.
Anytime somebody makes the claim or makes this accusation that I'm a victim of blank, there's another potential victim there, and that's the person being accused, who may be a victim also, or may be the victim in this situation if this person is lying.
But I think you hit the nail on the head. These are contextual things, and it did spawn out of the context of, hey, take these things seriously, investigate them. It doesn't mean believe right or die or forthright. I never meant that.
It doesn't mean believe blindly.
Right, exactly, because that would be a bad thing for anybody. Because then you actually do have innocent people like I never hit her. So if somebody believed you blindly and they asked all this evidence, and I'm like, hey, look, here's my exculpatory evidence. I mean, I clearly did not hit her. I've never been to her state. I'm sorry, your country. I've never been. Well, okay, I've been to Canada. I haven't been to your part of Canada, and that was decades ago. But yeah, it would be silly for somebody to ride or die believe you. But like for example, Black Lives Matter. There was a context to be had with that, right?
I was talking about this with Gary actually, and Gary said that, well, I believe you, and I said, why?
Yeah, what's the reasoning? He doesn't have reason to trust you. Okay, first of all, again, one of the other things was defunding the police, right? That has some context behind it. People didn't understand what defunding the police meant. They didn't grasp where that stemmed from, right?
It was an understanding, a prescriptive understanding of a word rather than understanding the concept, because the word. Latching onto just the word instead of the concept this is what matters. This word is tertiary. You can pick multiple words. You might be able to find a word that's better or not better, whatever, that's fine. But the concept stands. The concept is what matters.
Yeah, and I think that was exactly the case with the defunding the police thing, because they didn't understand it was supposed to be having less money for the police, could give more money to the infrastructure, so you don't need as many police. But you're right. Gary was unjustified to believe you, no offense.
No, absolutely. I agree.
He has no rapport with you, right? So he has no... But he is so ingrained, like you said, oh, she's a woman, you have to believe her regardless. That is not the concept behind believe women in the Me Too movement. That was never what it was supposed to be.
It was bizarre to me. It was like, you believe all victims. You don't believe Sweet, though.
Yeah, they're not even consistent on their own interpretation of that phrase, right? Because believe all victims, but I don't believe Sweet. Why? Because she's friends with Steve.
The only reason anybody should believe me is because, one, it doesn't matter, right? Like there's no effect going on. I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything. I'm not trying to attack. I'm not utilizing it to attack anybody or any one person in particular. Like I've never named the situation. I've never described that situation. Like I haven't done anything like that. So there's no victim if I'm lying.
Yeah, and I will tell people right now, I will stake my entire reputation that Sweet is not faking any of this. I've seen Sweet's PTSD firsthand in real life. I've seen it happen. just me and her, you know.
Yep.
I mean, so anybody who comes after her, you know, trying to say that she's lying about this stuff, you got a hell of a burden to meet on that, because I've witnessed it in real life with her. She's not faking any of this stuff, and she has every right to say who she's, you know, more comfortable in a room with. If she said, "Hey, Steve, I'm more comfortable, you know, in a room with Nate than I am you," okay, that's her prerogative. I'm kind of curious as to why, but I'm not going to fault her as a victim for it. That's ridiculous.
Well, it's incredibly subjective. And to be so offended by somebody that you don't like not wanting to be in the room with you, to the point that you lie about them and slander them further when they've only asked to be left alone, and they don't make content about you. They're not going around lying about you or saying anything about you. They're just saying they don't want to be around you and to leave them alone. It's pathetic.
Yeah.
It's pathetic attention-seeking bullshit.
It is. And it's re-victimizing.
Play the victim, so you can use your 40K to people will make you feel better about yourself while you try to abuse this person with 6 subs.
But don't you think it's re-victimization?
40K? Fuck off.
It's re-victimizing the victim.
Yep.
All right. Let's read some of the responses. Wait, are we on? Who are we on? Oakley now?
We would be on Nancy Oakley. Okay. Yeah, we haven't read that one yet.
And the responses are good too. I don't understand why this is falling so hard on Sweet. What did she do so bad to be labeled a liar about rape, which is one of the worst things you can accuse a woman of, especially an actual survivor, I would know. When I've seen so many women and others on social media talk about Nate's lies, harassment, creepiness, he and his pals don't take no for an answer. They want you to respect but not respond to their feelings on McCrae. But when somebody has a negative experience with them and speaks out, they try to troll and slander for years. What is this? Where's the compassion? It's been a disgusting year, and these people make it much sadder. People like you and Sweet and the rest try to make a positive impact, and they don't even try to do anything but hurt. They go after you and not the actual rapist and misogynist. Good luck. I hope more come forward, but I get why they be scared. Way to help reassure victims they'll be heard, jerks. Yeah, and a lot of people are spared. I had a person tell me they told these people what they wanted to hear merely because they were being bashed and you know, attacked. And they messaged me. Hey, Steve, you know, I disagreed with them. I said these things. I don't really mean any of them, but I just got tired of them attacking me. Now, granted, I'm like, okay.
Believe us, go with us, or else.
But I mean, it's just like sad that people have had to do that.
To think that they wouldn't do what they do to us to somebody who's maybe one of their own, who's one of their friends, would be, why would you think that they wouldn't? Yeah. One reason why you think that they wouldn't, because I
can understand this. Like, this one person is autistic, and I think they use that as manipulative things. I think they do go after people that have autism a lot for some reason.
There does seem to be a pattern of treatment towards people with autism or some other kind of somewhere on the spectrum.
They try to mostly manipulate them.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, and
they also are like really they've been really derogatory towards anybody of that nature who doesn't agree with them in that area.
And I understand. You know, I didn't fault the guy, but I'm like, you know, okay, whatever. Now subsequently, he's kind of like realized that was probably not the best decision. I think maybe because they recognized that, you know, that because he still associates with me. So, and they're like, oh, you can't go on Steve's channel. Who was it the other day? Oh yeah, they were trying to warn Mark Pellegrino, right? And it was great because I had actually been talking about Mark for a while. I said, hey, watch these guys come to the work we're working, the shit that they say. And they proved my point. That's why he came on the channel. He knew I wasn't lying. They basically solidified that for me. Thank you very much. I tell all my guests about this stuff. Yeah, so I mean, it's like, and I want guests on that are not idiots, that are not going, oh, look, these people that have bad arguments are going to convince me not to go on Steve's channel. It hasn't flown. I haven't had one person yet said, oh, I'm not going to go on your channel from what I've heard. Not one. So, all right. Want to read the response?
Yeah, Nate's response to Sweet. This is a really good comment. Nate's response to Sweet asking to be believed or not and just left alone and not defamed anymore was to immediately defame her again. He demonstrably, blatantly lied again. I hope she takes him to court or someone who knows him reports him. It's fucked. He thinks because that he's a lawyer, he can intimidate people into silence with defamation. Why don't intellectuals like Gary consider her job or her family or her reputation? She doesn't hide behind an alias like Nate does. Her name has been out there. People in her town know who she is. People have met her in person and have her address. She's being falsely labeled she's been falsely labeled a stalker, rape apologist, liar about her own rape. So you tell me which one is more likely danger, smart guy. Those real life consequences work both ways, dipshit.
How do you improve upon that? I don't even know where to go with that because there's just nothing to add. It's just A+. You know?
You have no idea how many times I wanted to say, you dense motherfucker.
But I mean,
During
they're
that
exactly
call.
right. And I know I know these things have affected her because of her family and in real life things. I know it has. But luckily her family is very understanding. And yeah, her family has nothing against. Yeah, her family. I mean, look, they wouldn't have let her fly out to meet me if they didn't think that I was. If I thought for a second I was anything like these people are might make me out to be, they would have talked her out of it, right? Not just once, but twice we met up. So.
Amen. Dan Cooper said, amen, brother. That should all be obvious to anyone who cares one way or the other. It's gone too far. I've seen some of these net things not end well. The victim is dead. It's not funny or justified when she's not actively doing anything and begging for peace. Hope they take legal action if it does not stop it. Seems walking away doesn't even work. I am frustrated for them. And
it's
you're right.
hard. It's hard.
There is no walking away from this. They won't let you. That's
We've tried. We walked away 5 years ago and they're still around and they're still harming people. This group is a dangerous group. I don't know how many ways I can emphasize that.
If you were to get somebody who's maybe a little bit more emotionally fragile or maybe a little bit younger or maybe like just slightly different than any of the people they're currently going after, they could easily wind up dead from like a suicide attempt or something, just because of like the endless nonstop barrage, right? If you don't know how to handle it, or if you're not ready to handle it, or it comes out of nowhere, or you already have a pre-existing issue, this is a very real consequence of these types of actions. And so if Gary or whoever is going to be so concerned about Nate's life, why would and the chance that he could lose his job because of his behavior, why would they not be concerned about the mental health of the victim in this case, who could easily end up dead at the end of the day because they're just getting account after account after account after block after block after block non-stop coming at them and lying about them and twisting anything they say, and then when they try and defend themselves, just use it as an excuse to go more or harder or say worse.
And what's more dangerous?
And that's what it is. Right?
Like I said, her personal information is out there. If you mean, again, it's not that it's not public. I'm not saying that, but there are people that know some of her personal information.
Yep.
She has well, she would have, in theory, a much more likely somebody harming her than somebody go after Nate, who nobody has his personal information. Like that. So I mean, and especially as a victim, she's obviously going to be scared of that. Now, this actually, it had real life consequences. She had been, when we went to Texas, she had been in a car with somebody who has PTSD that had threatened to bash Cheshire's head against the wall if she made him mad enough. She was in a car with this guy by himself. I mean, yes, when she found out afterwards, it triggered her. She was bothered by this, and understandably so, because in retrospect, she was in a possibly dangerous situation. Had she pissed off this guy or something, she could have been harmed.
Well, I mean, even besides her, or even besides any of us, Steve has had a person make a video being really creepy, wearing a printout of his face in their kitchen, and Steve's information is public.
Yeah.
And so why should there not be some kind of concern about that for Steve also?
Yeah.
Right?
And there's none.
And of course, by the way, I do want to point out that I'm not saying that Steve or Sweet are necessarily going to kill themselves over this. I'm saying that this is.
If they would love that. What if they are never given the satisfaction?
Right. Just I'm gonna keep living for the sake of keeping.
That's the only reason I'm going in. I'm continuing my life. It's just because it pisses them off.
Well, what I'm saying is that if Gary is going to be so concerned about potential harm, why is this not part of that potential harm that could happen?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So Dan Cooper, or no, wait.
Sam.
Yes, I just said similar. Nate has all the protection of anonymity and the following. Sweet can't take back once being more public. I stayed anonymous too, but for him to say what he says with authority to be anonymous is shady and cowardly. I wouldn't trust any lawyer who doesn't stand by his words, words he's obviously hiding. Yep.
Damn, I didn't know that. I didn't know all that. That's scary. Whatever they think about her, they should just leave her alone if she's leaving them alone. I get having your say, but there needs to be an end. They have shown they won't be happy until Steve is gone completely. So I worry they'll do the same to Sweet and Chesh. I'm far from convinced they deserve canceling.
Yeah, I've been around for 8 years on YouTube, going on 6 years making videos.
I guarantee you that provided things are going well as I think they are, and things continue to go well as I think that they will, then Steve and I will be around for quite some time. And by the looks of the way things are going, and I'm pretty confident that it will be quite successful. And so that being the case, there's a really decent chance that Steve, being older than I am, is going to kick the bucket before I will.
She wants my stuff. Not a guarantee.
I could be dead tomorrow, for anybody knows.
And she wants me to have necrophilic sex with her body for some reason. But whatever. That's a different video. People are like, wait, pause. You're going to have to watch an old video to understand that one.
All the way from California to Canada to do it. But the point I'm getting at is that there's a decent chance that Steve will die before I will, but I guarantee you that these people will not at this point. They might have been once upon a time, but at this point, I've pissed them off enough on my own that they'll just go to the next target, to the next target, to the next target. And that's what's going to happen. So like once Steve kicks the bucket and is gone, they'll just move on to the next person.
Yeah, they'll find some
right.
Target.
So I'm gonna take your apartment that you got for free in their brain.
It's all I will bequeath it to you. I will put it in my will.
She'd have to be dead to sleep with you isn't a compliment.
No, hey, fair point, right? Yeah. That's not what she said, by the way, Jamal, but fair point, but that's not what she said. Yeah.
I'm keeping it. That was the point. The whole thing was a joke to say.
You can't retcon that shit. It doesn't work that way.
That's happening.
Yeah.
It's too late.
Well, I did say before
right now.
When Chess says, "Hey, the only way I'll have sex with you is on my dead body," she's at this point being figuratively, or she's being literally, not figuratively. But yeah. That's a whole different video. People have to go watch that. That was bizarre. And by the way, that video where we're talking about, necrophilia and Nazism and all this other stuff. All this stuff came up. That stayed monetized, believe it or not.
Necro my body, Steve Senpai.
Oh, you guys are weird.
Jasmine
says, I read Nate's Twitter and listened to his lies. I can honestly say I wouldn't want to be anywhere near him either. I thankfully have the anonymity. I thankfully have the anonymous luxury Sweet and others don't have. And it is true. I am public, right? So I don't have that anonymity, and I do understand why people have an anonymity. I don't have a problem with people having anonymity, but I have a problem with people being shitlords, being anonymous and not being held accountable for their lies and
well, that's kind of the Guardian Project, right?
Yeah, that's part of the Guardian Project, right?
There's a difference between the safety of being anonymous but also you can have that, but you have to be, because you have to verify your account in a way that you don't. There's accountability that goes with it.
Yeah. Some guy named Enzo.
Daniel Cooper in the chat says, "I bequeath unto Cheshire my internet troll group."
Yeah.
Oh, thanks. Thanks,
All
Steve.
yours. Yes, all yours. Go ahead and do the next one.
Some guy named Enzo. I want to know if that's a reboot reference. The message I got was victims matter unless they are friends with Steve because reasons. Yeah, kind of. These people are cruel, and people like Gary may genuinely not even realize how cruel and backwards they are. This was pretty gross, but good to discuss and show bad arguments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I think that Gary does not realize how cruel a lot of what he actually said to me was, directly to me and kind of about me. I don't think he knows.
Jamal says, so since Nate hangs with and excuses Nick, is Nate a sexual harassment apologist? I'll read a couple of these because they're short. Some guy named Enzo, and they both defended Atheist Ed's Jim, by the way, who I referred to just recently here. So they're violence against women apologists too. It's funny how rats scurry together and attack the same victims. I see it. I see it. It's pathetic, especially against good people. Yeah, I didn't see any of these people coming to Sweet's defense or Cheshire's defense. I actually, was very explicit in my defense. Now, I know again, I gave Jim and Nick the benefit of the doubt the most as I could, just like I would anybody else. I am consistent, but yeah, and of course, Sweet and Chess had to go, hey, Steve, okay, here's the evidence, this, and just like Landon said, show me enough evidence, and I'll change my positions. I did.
There was a situation where we had a couple conversations about that gym situation before you were like on board.
I did everything in my power to try to, and I hate to say the word defend him because that's not the real word to use, but to say, hey, look, I need to be absolutely kind of sure.
You took your time making that decision because he was somebody so close to you, and you wanted to be sure when you did, and you wanted to give him as much charity as possible, but by the time he had doubled down, it was
untenable.
I think after a couple of people actually rewatched that video and realized that, like, sort of the situation a little bit better.
Well, wouldn't you want the same benefit of the doubt?
Oh yeah, I don't think you're wrong. I don't think you're wrong to want to have that time to process and think about what's going on. And you shouldn't just jump on someone because somebody said jump.
Yeah.
Right. Now, I do think there is something to be said for like deciding a priority level about who do you trust when, and that is so nuanced and so subjective that you can't even
agreed.
You can't even really even have that discussion with another person because that's such a personal thing that there's no way that you can.
Well, a lot of it is internal processing, But Jamal says, who was the nicest to these people? Everyone guess who defended Nick and Jim the longest, aside from Steve. I'll wait.
There are people that are still currently defending them.
Who was the nicest to these people? Everyone. Guess who defended? Are they
probably Sweet, actually.
I'm not sure of the question, but yeah, if I'm interpreting it correctly, then probably Sweet was pretty nice to these people as much as she possibly could, but then eventually it was untenable for her as well. Dan Cooper, I was thinking about this too. Gary here seems to give the worst people charity, knowing
you skipped one. It was that
Jamal.
If I wasn't running around, I would have included that punk too. Yeah. Also support telling elderly domestic violence survivors who call you out for hurting victims to go fuck themselves, as Nick so eloquently retorted, screw these people.
I don't recall that, but maybe.
I think that was a Twitter thing.
Okay. I'm trying to think back on that. Dan Cooper says, I was thinking about this too. Gary here seems to be give the worst people charity, knowing they have supported the most abhorrent behaviors, but assumes the worst about Steve, who I've never seen malicious anywhere. A riot, he says, she may not understand friendship when he keeps the company he keeps. What a joke. Hope these women get a resolution to this and can move on. Seems that's all they wanted. Steve deserves a break too from this whole RA thing. Is baseless and hurts him and innocent people around him. People who care about victims don't label people McRape, and such as that's triggering to observers, such as Gary argues about having a rapist on the show. I lost track of his hypocrisy. Chess is impressive, and I hope isn't dying from alcohol poisoning.
I'm okay.
She's young. Her liver regenerates. Her liver will be fine.
I
But
had
you're
to,
right.
I had to
But
take a day to recoup, but I am
but
all
see,
right.
here's the thing though. They know that it doesn't really emotionally get to me. What it does bother me is when they go after people I care about. They're aware of this. I mean, I'm not telling anything that they don't already know because I'm not giving them fuel for the fire, so to speak, of how to get to me. This is something they've figured out on their own. But it's okay. At least it's okay in the fact that if they go after, well, I should say worst case, never okay, but if they go after people I care about, at least more people are willing to step in and go, wait a minute here, what the hell does this got to do with anything? Why are you going after Sweet?
Well,
Sweet is innocent in all this.
you
So they see it
notice,
obviously much more than if they see it them going after me.
if you notice in this video, I didn't actually spend too much time talking about Steve. I spent a little bit of time talking about him in reference to what was okay and not okay about the apologetic stuff. But I didn't talk too much about whatever harassment of Steve takes place and how that might affect his work or his interpersonal relationships, and the fact that these people are actively trying to harm his online reputation, which matters in the online sphere.
It actually has backfired on them. I have more people friends now, and not cool people that I
which
met
which is fine.
because of
The,
it. Yeah,
the intention is what
yeah,
matters
the
here. But
attention is there. Right.
I didn't bring that up on purpose. And that's mostly because I've seen multiple occasions where these people I'm not going to say that this was going to be Gary 100%, but I have some experience with talking to people of this group that cannot handle a conversation as soon as Steve is the subject of the conversation.
Agreed.
Like they can't handle it.
I saw Hallow Partition says, I saw what Nick did on Twitter to not only Sweet, but his other employees, which is disturbing. But who is Jim? What is he? Jim is a host of Atheist Edge, who was a friend of mine. Sorry, I'm fairly new or maybe slow, haha, but what I've seen so far is pretty clear. So I believe everyone involved with Nate is duplicitous, if not simply simple. Well, everyone I've seen it with Nate is duplicitous. That is one big group, and every one of them I've seen being dishonest and lie frequently and actively try to harm people.
I think we can probably skip the next couple because it's just explaining the Atheist Ed
that's fine.
situation. If anybody wants to know about the Atheist Ed situation, you can just look up the episodes about that. They're around. He interviewed Kyle, and fucked it up.
Yeah.
I had to watch in bits. That was a lot, and your patience is astounding. Thank you. People like this are why victims of all kinds never speak up when the one doing the bad thing is more popular / powerful / has a more respected job. #MeToo should be all over these fake advocates that actually make things harder for victims to express themselves. Hope he continues to come around, however slowly.
No, I agree wholeheartedly.
I think that's one of the side effects of this conversation that I think is very important, because I didn't know where Gary was going to go, and the fact that he went where he did with this double standard, I think is really important, because you see things like this with the Johnny Depp Amber Heard situation. You see things like this with like Donald Trump and the people and those women. Then you see how the approach that Gary and these people are taking actually make rape apologetics easier for people to do.
Yes. Yeah, they harm victims. This is what I was trying to say about Gary. He's making it much more difficult for actual victims of assault, and he doesn't understand that. And that's why I think people need to speak out against it, not because they're defending me, but they're defending people that won't come out, because this is the stuff that they have to face. People like Gary, people like that entire troll group that don't care about the victims.
Saying that a victim should not come forward because it could harm the reputation of the person harming them is incredibly disturbing and horrendous, and an awful position to try and defend like that.
Enzo, the next comment actually is that very thing.
Hey,
yeah, he says, some guy named Enzo says, I couldn't believe my ears when it was said Sweet should not talk about her opinion because Nate has an important job.
Yeah.
I don't know if Nate's even working in the field. But he says that's literally apologist behavior. Yeah. Grab him by the pussy. What are they going to do? Tell? I can't do what I want. I'm popular. That would be bad for society's norms. What? Then he says not to believe somebody was raped ever if you don't like their current behavior. These poor women, I see why Sweet lost it dealing with this. When people so long, I would too. Exactly. No, and again, that's exactly why Sweet has taken a step back on all this stuff. And yeah, I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Well, this plays exactly to what I was saying. If it was different people involved, if it was somebody who was in a little bit different of a place where you could easily see why this type of behavior and this type of shit could be problematic, even for people within their own group, if this is their mentality. So if Nate did abuse somebody in their group, but Nate was the most important one, the person in that group can't say anything.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back and like all these comments eventually. I just haven't had time. I just haven't been going through them. Somebody says like the comment. I'll go back and like all these. But
yeah,
Icarus says 42.
Bit...
Real quick, Icarus says 42 likes and 42 dislikes. Perfect. Yeah, I'm gonna keep the like to dislike ratio up because I want people to see the people that dislike these videos. Right, it's probably one person with bots. Who knows? Most of them go away. But even if it doesn't, those are the people that again. There are the ones that are harming victims, in my opinion.
The people that are disliking this video are essentially putting in an effort to say that they agreed with Gary, even though we're not necessarily even having that discussion.
Yeah, so they're agreeing with Gary. Now go back and again. I know it's 6 hours, but watch as much as you can, and you'll see that There's sorry. You probably don't want to be on Gary's side on this.
There's less 6 likes on my actual video.
Well, you 4. Do this. I watch things at 1.5 times, so that's 3 hours at 1.5 times. You can get through.
You can understand Gary at that rate.
I don't understand at normal speed, but whatever.
Yeah, that's what Living Hypocrite said. Yeah, it's kind of funny. Chesh gets him onto a stream because people don't understand what he writes in Twitter because of the content. Just to have people not understanding him because of how he sounds.
I did say he sounds like he tweets. Did I not tell you this? I don't say things for hyperbolic sake.
Gary doesn't agree with Gary. Correct.
People need to understand. I'm very straightforward in what I say on that. When I say, look, he sounds like how he speaks, I'm telling you, he sounds like how he speaks on Twitter.
There were times where I was having a hard time understanding what he says. Original Nelson said, who cares about his reputation? This is the same line of thinking that people use to say that offenders shouldn't get a proper sentence in court. Not saying that Nate is an offender, no way. I'm just saying that issue of being more concerned about a man's reputation than a woman's safety or sense of safety. Sweet can tell Nate to fuck off all she wants. If Nate's reputation is on the line, which I don't think it is, he should shut his mouth and never mention her name again.
Yeah, and by the way, I don't think he cares about his online reputation because he lies with impunity. He doesn't care as long as he gets views out of it. He's the same way with Union Rock. They have no reputations to speak of, in my opinion. I mean, I would love to have a conversation with anybody who says Nate's an honest lawyer online. Like I can't do what he say anything about his personal life, but if somebody thinks that Nate is honest, come on and have a discussion because I can show you all the times he lied from the last 5 years.
I mean, Gary seemed to think
not all the times, but I can show many of them.
Gary seemed to think that, but when presented with the straight up lie that he brought up, because Gary's the one who brought that up and I just used, but that's not what she said. So he just dismissed it. Like he could not accept that was in fact a lie. So I think he'd run into some problems with that.
We'll go for another 23 minutes. Living Hypocrite. I have to admit, saying dumb things does not mean you're dumb. I think we're all guilty of that sometimes. Absolutely. Yes, that's true.
Dan also said just above, exactly, it's backwards of her to blame her for defending herself or her friends from slander. Seems she tried to stay out of it best she could and apologized when she failed. She literally said she's not looking for anything but for the lies to stop. She has a life to affect too, not just Nate. Literal apologetics, the irony. The only apologetics that was going on in that was Gary apologizing for things, excusing some shit. I'm gonna start drinking again after this.
Yeah.
Bam.
I need to have a drink today too. I don't know why this doesn't deserve to have more likes. Well said. Yeah. Well, people need to watch it more. But yes. Explanatory Minds Project. Whatever planet you were on to develop such patience, remind me that I must fly there one day.
Oh, thanks. I actually kind of mentally prepared myself ahead of time. I do not always have that patience unless I go in with the intention of having as much, and that's what I did. I went into this call with the intention of being as patient as humanly possible. 6 hours, yeah.
Yeah, damn
He
Cheshire.
said,
Yeah. Oh wait, did we? So you read? Did we just did Andy's?
no, I didn't.
Okay.
You go ahead.
Damn Chesh, I have a lot of patience, but I don't think I could have spent 6 hours talking to Gary on the same topic. You and me either, brother. Bottom line with Gary, if a victim is a friend of Steve, they cannot be believed. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not really how things should work. The reply on that, I so agree with Andy. Her patience was astonishing. Thank you. I was losing the patience with this guy, and I'm very patient in life, but he felt like he was working on a double standard. Yes. He was really starting to affect me at points. I've had past rape and assault, but also know that of people who lied on sexual assault in court. I'm not too keen on people who use a double standard for people they know and liars.
Well, this is why Gary doesn't
Yeah.
understand these concepts. He thinks, like, again, a lot of people are indoctrinated to think any woman who says something, it must be must be believed, and yet that is a dangerous precedence, and that's not what the Me Too movement even said. They don't want people to blindly believe women. As Cheshire, superbly pointed out, the whole point of the Me Too movement was to get people to listen and to take things seriously and investigate properly.
Particularly because men in power were not being held accountable.
Correct.
Or women weren't being believed that these things happened because that he was bigger than she was. Exactly the thing that Gary is saying we should go back to.
Exactly. The irony. The irony. He's actually doing exactly what we're telling people in the Me Too movement are saying not to do. I mean, we're the ones actually standing up for the victims. Gary and Nate and the rest of them are not. They're causing harms to the victims. I don't know how much more blunt can we be on that. It's obvious.
What they're doing is they're trying to weaponize the ideals of the Me Too movement by twisting them into something they never were supposed to be in the first place. And that's what you see a lot of online bullies doing. You see it in the some of the trans communities. You see it in some of the autism communities. Look at the way people treat William Shatner because he supports a charity.
Yeah, or he made some comments on trans stuff, and people just like flock to him, like we want to believe. But like somebody pointed out, William Shatner and Mark Pellegrino saw through that stuff, no problem. I mean, they're used to bullies. I'm just going to skip through these and go down to the bottom here. I think.
At one point, somebody said, I replayed this several times and turned up the volume. It still sounds like mumble, sexual assault or not. What the fuck did he say?
I know. I know it's hard.
I tried to transcribe what they said at that time period, and he said, okay, so my issue with the way that Nate is being portrayed as being less trustworthy than a convicted rapist.
Which was never said. It wasn't a matter of trustworthy. It was a matter of he has treated Sweet, me, Chesh, Reds, and a whole Bullinator, and I pretty much my people I know far worse than a convicted rapist has. As Cheshire said, the convicted rapist treated her better. That's her subjective opinion.
Because what these people ignore, what these people have ignored the whole time, because I asked Gary about this in the call, if I'm not mistaken. I asked Gary if he had seen the video that everybody was so upset about. And he said yes. And I asked him, do you remember that I was in that video? I'm in that video.
Did anybody go after you? Yeah.
And the first thing that this guy did was make a sex joke at me. It's the first thing he did. And they don't give a shit about that. They don't even bring it up. That doesn't happen.
Oh, I'm telling you, the hypocrisy.
If they were so offended and had such an issue with this guy, you would think that the first thing they would give a shit about is as soon as a woman entered the room, he made a sex joke about them, and that because he's been convicted in the past, it's not okay for him to do something like that, and Steve should have stepped forward and said something and white knighted for me, I guess.
No.
You'd think that would be the line of reasoning they would use, because at least there's something substantial there that you could.
It'd be a little more consistent.
It would look more consistent.
Yeah.
But if they don't,
you're not a real woman, so it doesn't matter when you go in a room according to them. According to them, you're not a real woman. So
right, but then they would run into another problem, and that's using me as a weapon towards these people, to you and to Warden, which I'm not.
Right. Yep,
Did I speak out against it? Did I look uncomfortable? No, I played with the joke. I went along with it. It doesn't fly. Like if you were going to have an issue, that's the issue you should have had. And keep in mind, they had this issue before they really knew or had any problems with me. They just didn't care about that at all.
Well, like I
So
said,
even before they had any beef with me, before they realized the amount of a thorn in the side I was going to be to them, because this was all before that, because they didn't realize how much of a pain in the ass I was going to be for them until after the Call Me an Obloquy video.
and here's the thing though,
That happened. They did not give a shit about any of that, because all they cared about was shitting on Steve. They didn't actually care about any of these issues about this guy being a danger to women.
but don't you?
They didn't care about any of these issues about Steve as a danger to women, because they did that. If they were going to, if that's what they cared about, that's the thing they would have latched onto it, and they didn't, because they don't give a shit, because they're shitheads, and fuck them.
And don't you think this it's gone to the point where like I said, all this has been backfiring on honestly. They've not changed. They're not changing the minds of anybody that I know. The people that a few people, a handful of people, you know, a negative comment here and there. It's like maybe 3 or 4 every couple of weeks or so. Something major. It's not having any deleterious effects other than people are now seeing them for who they are and everything that we've been pointing out. So hey, Mazel Tov. And by the way, it's giving you some good content because I think this is well establishing that you have the ability to have these conversations. This whole 62 IQ thing has been shot through the window, which is kind of comical because if you think about it, a 62 IQ dismantled Gary, and this is their you know apologetic person who's like defending them kind of stuff. He didn't do a very good job, and if a 62 IQ can dismantle you that easy. I don't know.
But to be fair, I wasn't trying to dismantle Gary too much. What I was trying to do was have an understanding of what he was trying to say and what the arguments were, and then dismantle the arguments. Gary just couldn't accept the dismantling of those arguments. But now, if anybody who comes across these people, because we know that they go after people in the audience,
yes,
if any of you come across these people, you can go ahead and respond with clips from this video and say, okay, well, if this is what's the answer to this then? Because here's the contradiction that we're seeing. So can you clarify that? Or now we can advance the conversation from now that we know where the stance is, now that we know what the arguments are, without wiggling. There's no wriggle room here. This is the argument. This is the stance. And so now people can sort of very easily see where these things start falling apart and how they start falling apart. Unfortunately, it took a 6-hour conversation to get through most of it.
Yeah, well, a lot of it was very redundant. But anyways, thanks, Chess. I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you guys for watching this. I am going to be playing some Destiny 2 tonight. I might stream to the GDC channel. Not a lot of people watch, maybe, 20, 30 people. It's for fun, right? But if you want to join, I know I see Todd out there and a few other people. Come play Gambits with me. I'm having a fun time playing Destiny 2 online. I don't know why the resolutions. I've changed it to 1080p, 60 FPS, and it still seems not as sharp as it should be. And I changed it to 6,000 kps. So let me know.
You can always in the chat. I do that when I'm streaming with Minecraft or streaming whatever game. It's mostly just a hangout time where people, if you want to discuss these topics or other topics sort of amongst yourselves, so that way you guys have a place that you can kind of just chill and chat and talk about the game or talk about.
I'm using Discord, by the way, Chesh. The GDC Discord, because they made a room especially for Destiny 2.
I know.
Now here's the thing: I'm streaming it to the GDC channel. It's better to have it over there than over here most of the time, right?
I think so.
Yeah, it's just a catch-all channel. So, all right, guys.
Unless you're gonna switch the GDC back over to having these discussions more, in which case then I would swap it over the other way. It depends on how you want to do your own stuff. I'm going live later tonight. I'm not really going to be part of the conversation too much. Same with last Thursday. I've got Landon and Manya and Mr. Sirius coming on to talk about mathematics and philosophy. There may or may not be a couple special guests that are also showing up. Steve, I'm sure you're welcome. Ask Manya. She might tell you no. I don't know.
Manya would never tell me no. No, I love Manya. I'm telling you what, the only person worse to go after than to Sweet is Manya. People going after Manya, you got some screws loose. I mean, it's just incomprehensible to me. You're a horrible human being if you go after Manya. She's such a sweet person. What time are you doing that?
That's at 11 p.m. Eastern, so 8, 9, 10 in 3 hours.
Yeah. Okay. So if I do my Destiny, it'll be before then.
Yeah. And then Friday, I have streamed every day this week. So Friday, I'm going to take a day off, get some stuff done, play catch up. And then Saturday, I think I'll also have some gaming. But if I'm lucky, I'll be playing Pokemon Insurgents. So we get a little bit more of that, which is for anybody who's interested, this is a fan-made Pokemon game with something called Delta Pokemon, which are different typings of known Pokemon, and they got new sprites and everything. So like I got Squirtle, and instead of being a water type, he's a fighting dark type. So that's kind of interesting. And then something else. Oh, and it's a blind Nuzlocke run, so I've never played the game. And if the Pokemon dies, it's gone forever. So I also have that going on, unfortunately.
No
for me.
respawn?
No respawns.
Kind of like life.
Yup. And I don't get any reviving items. I don't get any of that. None of that stuff.
All right. So people want to play Destiny 2, join us in the GDC the Discord. I think the link is in the description. If not, I'll put it in later. It's not that hard to find. But it's downloadable. It's a free game. You don't have to pay anything for it unless you want to do the expansion stuff. But it's not a pay to win, so it doesn't matter. All right, Chest, this was great. Like I said, a really great video. Your lesson in understanding. I don't know why it doesn't have 1,000K by now. It should. So please share that video of Cheshire's. Get it out there. What?
Knows who Gary is.
But I tell you what, that video has more views than some of your other ones. So I mean, but again, it's not about the views. Here's the thing.
It's really good.
It's about the exposure.
That exposes a lot of bad arguments that we see on Twitter. So if it can be shared that in sort of like, I saw somebody saying they were going to share it with the hashtag #MeToo stuff. Yes, because I don't think this applies only to this group of people that we have to deal with, because I think this actually covers a much broader problematic ideology that we see in the Me Too movement and in all kinds of places all over the place. And I think it would be beneficial and very generous of you to kind of spread it around that way.
I agree.
Hopefully people can get something from it.
All right. Good night, guys. Thanks, Todd, Smitty, Dark Advark, Akiza, Icarus, Mr. Sirius.
Like and subscribe and
all you guys, man. Love you guys. Bye.